our head coach of our local football program, Bronco Mantel.
The details themselves with the right preparation can separate you from mediocre competitors that don't do that. And so, yeah, the attention to detail, I think, drives the execution, or should I say brings the execution to life, especially in critical moments.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
I don't know if you could hear the triple hey, but it was there. Just give me a second. Idiot friend in Boise. All right. How's everybody doing? My name's Ryan Tamori. Welcome to the Pit Press Live. A lot to get to tonight. UNM football, UTEP, Gonzaga moving conferences. Boise State, UNLV look good in football. We will recap UNM, NMSU here shortly. Heavy guests tonight. I know it's a little bit of usual suspects. We definitely want to get some different guests on. We didn't do a show last night. With it being a bye week and basketball on the horizon, 2 weeks from today, we will be in beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada for Mountain West Conference and I believe West Coast Conference basketball media days. 8:45, Ben Wysong, former UNM linebacker, Lobo back. 9 o'clock, Nick Coppola from the Las Cruces Sun News. I don't know if there are any Aggie fans watching. I defend this kid, so just throwing that out there. He will help us recap from at least the NMSU side of things down in Cruces, what the mood is there. I've definitely got my thoughts on how terrible the UNM defense is. 9:30, a guest a lot of you guys like, Joe Arrigo, Franchise Sports Media of Las Vegas. Obviously, I know we're about a week removed from Matt Sluka leaving the program. They annihilated Fresno State on Saturday. They look good, and it's just not their offense. It is their defense, and I misplaced my ads. I'm on to a great show. I'm off to a great start tonight. But I do have my voice back. So you know what? I'll just go to those that have joined me. My business partner in this endeavor, his name is Mr. Eric Malton. Eric, how you doing tonight?
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm doing good. And yeah, before we kind of get into it, but Ed, how many how many wins out of the last, like, is it 17 games the Cowboys have played the Giants that they've won? Is it like 16 of the last 17?
Yes, it is. Something
like
like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to get Ryan's thoughts on that.
You know what? If you could only play the Giants 4 times in January, like I said last week.
Hey, but
but you can't.
Oh man, I didn't say it, Ryan. I didn't say anything, man. I didn't say a word.
Well, you know, you know, I don't like the injury bug. There we go. Okay, I found it. Now I can give my thoughts. You just can't kick field goals, and we all know that. So I don't know. Daniel Jones hasn't played that bad. I'm very well of what I'm saying, and I'm going to the comments real quick because I got to go to this guy before I get to Ed. No show last night. Yes, no show last night. Hey, Ronnie, can Otani do this?
3-2. Back up the middle. Lindor has it, spins, throws, got him. Oh, boy.
Oh, that's right. He can't because he's hurt and he doesn't play any defense. So there you go. There's Lindor. The Brewers just tied it. It's 3-3. But also Otani hasn't won a playoff game this year. So I'm going to be that guy. The 50-50 was incredible. Now to a guest, to one of the usual suspects whose team has not played in a Super Bowl this quarter of the century. He's the Lobo fan since 1970.
Oh, yeah.
Not only have the Giants won 2, they've played in 3, but I do talk about the Baltimore game. That defense was fascinating. Lobo fan since 1970, a Cowboy fan since 1970, a Laker fan since 1970, and he's the voice of the Western New Mexico Mustangs. His name is Mr. Ed Nunez. How you doing, Ed?
I was going to compliment you on that shirt. Wide left, Norwood, wide left,
Yep.
man.
Wide right.
I remember the Giant players holding hands. I remember that. That was some drama there, man. It really was. Yeah. But, Eric, that you brought that up, man. We got, Ryan wants to talk mess. I'm going to have to weigh in on that. And I didn't want to. I don't think you've ever really heard me say I can talk as much mess as the next guy, But I got to say this, though, Eric. Cowboys have got some bad injuries, man. They do. They're not very good. I hate to say it. They're not good at the offensive line. They don't have a running game. They've got DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah out. Lawrence out for 4 weeks, Micah out for this week. They're hurting, man. But anyway, to that, there's a lot of stuff to talk about. And I listened to the Lobo game on the way back from Western, and their 50 points is great. But I know Ben will be on later, and maybe he can break down the defensive assignments, and that's what it's coming down to. I've asked some people; they're missing some people, but 40 points if they beat the Aggies 50-7, that we can say hey, but they gave up 40. But I'm glad they won a game. Coach Mendenhall was happy about that, so I'm glad they finally got in the win column.
Hey, I will say this too, real quick. Neighbors is that guy's the real deal, man. He's just like a second coming of Odell, I think, for the Giants. He's young. He's a freak athletic. I think they got something there. They just got to find a quarterback. And the Cowboys football team might have not been in the headlines, but Jerry Jones's helicopter was. So there's that.
Old Jerry. I'm not really doing a good job here because I can't find the final stats of the game because I printed them out. Old Jerry landed his here we go. I can be distracted. Jerry landed his helicopter on the practice field today, so love it. Better to be a winner than a loser. All right, let me get to our sponsors. Dulce River Bakery and Coffee, they sponsor the Morning Howl on Saturday mornings. Appreciate that. Affordable Solar behind me. Turquoise Desert Tap Room, we love Armando and Molly over there. Appreciate you guys. Hydro Bar, Tim Senior and Tim Baca Senior and Junior. Appreciate you guys. We'll definitely probably be seeing a lot more of you with basketball season around the corner. Affordable Service Heating, Plumbing, Air Conditioning for your HVAC needs in the Albuquerque and Rio Rancho area. Affordable Service has been in business in New Mexico since 1986 and is still locally owned. During that time, they've served more than 40,000 customers, providing complete residential and light commercial HVAC services, including heating, cooling, electrical, and plumbing. Affordable Service takes pride in its staff commitment to the Albuquerque and Rio Rancho community. Once again, 8:45-ish, Ben Wysong, former UNM linebacker Lobo, back 9 o'clock. Nick Coppola from roughly 9 o'clock from the Las Cruces Sun News. He had an entertaining weekend. And Joe Arrigo. That's my over, Eddie. So I hit that at least. So there will be a game 3 tomorrow at least. John, oh my, Ryan pretty proud on the Mets. Reality will set in soon on that front. Just like the Aggie football team. And here's the John Romero stat of the night. UNM leads the all-time series over NMSU, 74 wins, 35 losses, and 5 ties. That's to piggyback off the stat of the Saturday night, or stat of the morning, Saturday stat of the morning, I guess is what I had. Was 73, 35, and 5. Yeah, Milwaukee just hit a 2-run home run. I did take the over 7.5. So I hit that. So there's the reality, John Romero. Ronnie, no show last night. No, we did not do one with the UNM bye week. Basketball coming up soon, again, to catch our breather. I'm trying to get more guests on, but yesterday just was not feeling it. I apologize. And my buddy Eddie Dunn. Holy shit, Milwaukee 2-run homer. Thank you. Nice haircut. I want to start with NMSU and UNM. And again, we'll get Ben's thoughts. And then we'll also get into UTEP joining the Mountain West Conference, Gonzaga to the Pac-12. I am going to bring this up. No, I'll do that in a second because we'll talk to Joe. You hit low, Ryan, going back into my hall. I still want you to watch the show. Didn't say that. Also joining us from the Bay Area, his is a 2-time offensive state. Where'd it go? Fantastic. Don't know where he is. There he is. I'm glad you're here, Rick. He's a 2-time offensive state lineman for the St. Pius Sartans, played basketball under Damian Segura, and talk about Ohtani Karma. He hasn't played a pitch in the. You don't want any of the Padres. You think you do, you don't. He's a 2-time offensive state lineman for St. Pius, Damian Segura. He's all the way from the Bay Area. Mr. Richard Thompson. Rick, how you doing?
I'm invisible right now, but I am doing good. There I am. I just sat in my car for 2 hours in traffic to make it here with you all, so I hope you're happy. But I'm ready to talk about conference realignment, basketball, football, and piss off Aggie fans. So I'm here to do it all, guys.
Appreciate that. All right. You know what, Ed? I'll start with you. UNM beat NMSU 50-40 on Saturday down at Aggie Memorial Stadium in Las Cruces. Total offense was 579 yards. I got to bring it up on ESPN, and I don't need to look at the end of the 8th there. 2-run inning for the Milwaukee Brewers, but I hit my over. UNM football. I thought the defense looked atrocious. This is the second worst offense in the entire country in NMSU, and they basically walked all over the UNM defense. I don't know how you stop better competition. As I said, they're 1-5 because they're not beating Washington State later in the year with that defense. Washington State can move the ball. It was nice to get a win. If you listen to us on the Saturday morning show, the Morning Owl, it looked pretty much how I thought it was going to go. There was a combined 43 points in the 4th quarter. I did not know that until this moment. Devin Dampier, 13 for 28 for 248 yards. He did have, I think, a couple rushing touchdowns. Nakeem Rogers, 21 carries, 122 yards, 3 touchdowns. Nakari Rogers, sorry. I thought he had a great game. But yeah, I was really, the defense is putrid. But it was a win. It is what it is. Ed, I'll start with you, being that you're the older Lobo fan here, and you've seen many more Aggie Lobo rivalry games. What were your overall thoughts? You did listen to it?
Much older fan. There's no question about that. But I listened to it on the way back and caught about the first quarter on. And I think, I had predicted 38-14. I said, to myself, the Lobos had faced some good competition. Their defense will come together. It's an anemic Aggie offensive attack. 38-14, I said, and Lobos scored 50, but they couldn't stop New Mexico State. And one of the questions was at the press conference on Monday was that New Mexico State running back was pretty good. There's a lot of missed tackles, according to what I heard. The Lobos didn't wrap up well. No Gabe Lopez, Kyler Drake limited. They're missing some players. Coach Mendenhall said they couldn't play dime six defensive backs in the fourth quarter because they didn't have the depth. None of that really, they're missing a lot of assignments, is what I'm told, as far as assignment football. But I think on the plus side, it is a win. I mean, if they had lost, you imagine how we would have felt. It didn't look good. New Mexico State, they came in. What were they averaging? 10 or 12 points a game, and they get 40 on the Lobos. Now, Coach Mendenhall said again that this bye comes at a good time. He's hoping to get 6 players back for the Air Force game. But, Rick would probably be the first guy to tell you it's a triple option. It's assignment football. And they haven't done well on assignment. And they've never done well against that triple option. So I don't know how that's going to bode for New Mexico when they play Air Force. They've always struggled against that triple option, no matter who has been there at quarterback or, for Air Force. They've always managed to run that up. So, but here's the other thing, though. Here's another good thing, I think, for New Mexico. They haven't allowed a sack all year, and that's a new offensive line. And I think that's something to say, hey, that's something good. Corey Rogers had a good game. They ran the ball well. But as long as that defense is unable to get off the field on third down, doesn't take the ball away, doesn't generate any sacks, it's going to be very tough for the offense. I mean, Dampier's, you mentioned kind of a meh game, but they still put up 50. I still don't think he's played his best football yet. I still think he's learning the position. So a 50-40 win. I'm glad they won, but I'll tell you one thing: I didn't expect New Mexico State to hang 40. I did not. I didn't. But my wife was telling me the other day, "Hey, they won. Why are you disappointed?" So I've got to just say I'm glad they won, and hopefully this bye week gives them some more practice time, some more reps, and some more injured guys come back for Air Force. They're going to need they don't have the depth of defense. Coach Mendenhall said that. They don't, like I said, they don't create turnovers, rush the passer, or anything like that. So, again, they won. I'm glad, but they have a lot of work to do, especially on the defensive end.
One thing before I get to Rick and Eric, I'm glad you brought it up. UNM had 14 penalties for 170 yards. Thank you, Greg Lujan, because I saw that Saturday night and I forgot to make note of it. When I hear that this team has improved, I don't know. Because I think New Mexico State is back to being New Mexico State. And if you are Aggie fan tuning in that's new to the show, yeah, I'm a UNM alumni, and I'm repeating myself here for the millionth time. God bless Jerry Kill the last year for being a covering machine for me. And I've mentioned it. I liked watching them. And when they are good, it's good for UNM. But nobody in this rivalry in this state seems to understand that. I think NMSU's athletic department under Mario Mocha, it's got to boost. He's got to be – the boosters have to have him in the pocket. I don't know how he hasn't been fired. It boggles my mind. I will save Rick for last on his thoughts on this. I will go to Eric. Eric, I wanted your thoughts on the UNM 50-40 win over NMSU.
Yeah, I think it really just kind of hits on the point that they lack a lot of depth up front on the defensive line. The linebackers, they don't have the size and physicality, and I mean that kind of points to or leads to all the penalties because they're getting beat physically, and it causes guys to grab a hold of people. And 14 this game, and what was it? They set a title school record against Fresno with 17. So to me, that's a trend. It's not necessarily kind of following through with the details and the consistency that Bronco alludes to in a lot of his press conferences. He's not getting that out of his guys, but it comes down to the overall depth and the lack of physical and big guys that the defense holds down. They gave up 285 rushing yards. They got a healthy dose of New Mexico State running backs. I think they had about four running backs surpass 50 yards rushing. So it didn't matter who they put in the game. They were finding those big gaps and they were breaking some big plays. So they got to shore that up, especially against teams like you said, Washington State. It's going to be tough. It's always going to be an uphill battle, but I do give credit to the offense. I think the offense is much improved this year. Obviously, the ability of Devin Dampier, I think his ability to escape the pocket and extend plays is saving the offensive line a little bit because a lot of his dropbacks in the pocket aren't him just kind of standing back there waiting for plays to develop. A lot of those plays are designed to get the ball out of his hands quickly. Quick hits, kind of hitting his running backs out of the backfield. So that kind of just plays into the scheme. They need to keep the ball and get the ball on the edges and get the ball to the playmaker. So I think part of the scheme is what they're kind of moving on, but they are moving the ball. They're converting first downs. They're putting up 50 points. I think it was the most points that they've put up at Aggie Memorial Stadium in like 30 years or something like that too. So I can't knock them. I think they're moving in the right direction, but it comes down to the lack of personnel size and big bodies up front on the defensive side. But Nikari Rogers, 3 touchdowns. Devin Dampier also had 3 rushing touchdowns. And then Eli Sanders, a little surprising to me. I'm not sure he only saw 3 touches out of the backfield, where he's kind of been one of the most reliable straight out of the pocket guys that's kind of like a big hitter, home run guy. Kind of surprising there, but they're kind of working it around. So that's what I was able to kind of analyze on my end. I know ESPN Plus kept kind of cutting in and out when I was watching the game, but I'm just happy they won. I'm on the same page Ed is.
I want to go to Rick, and yes, the Mets lost. They lost 5-3, and I love, because sorry, my phone was blowing up, and I got a text message from a few people that were fuck the Mets, and I'm like, you understand I don't play for the team. I don't even live anywhere near Queens anymore. So there's that. Yeah, hey, if you would have asked me in April and May, they were probably 100 loss team. Frank the Tank from Barstool Sports, he said they were 100 loss team. They're in the wild card. I'll take it. Rick, your thoughts on NMSU UNM?
Maybe it's because you look like Mr. Met there. And Eric, I can't believe ESPN Plus was coming in any worse than the stream I was getting on Crack Streams or Streamies. So it couldn't be that bad. Like you guys are already hitting on, monster game for Dampier, highlight plays, but he missed 2 big throws, 2 potential touchdowns in my eyes. And he's got to clean that up coming down the home stretch, because they're going to need those big plays to connect. They're not going to have the luxury of playing New Mexico State, a team that just, can beat time and time again down the field. So looking forward, I think Dampier, we can say if he's not the top quarterback in the conference, he's maybe 1B to Mikey Keene in my mind. And then you got the quarterback from San Jose State, Brown. Obviously, you now have the quarterback Hodge at UNLV. He only has 1 game. But when you look at overall performance so far this season, rushing and passing combined, you have to say Dampier is the top quarterback in the conference in my eyes. And as a sophomore, I think that's very impressive. So now it's putting the pieces around him to make that work. We know they have the running backs, a 2-headed or 3-headed monster it looks like they can do. Well, guess what? They finally did what I suggested. They only passed the ball 28 times and ran the ball to the tune of 49 times for almost 7 yards a carry. That's how you keep your defense, who's horrible, off the field. You run the football, you control the clock, you don't allow these high-powered offenses that you're going to face here to stay on the field and just destroy your defense. So I think that's going to be the recipe. Once you do that, you saw how those play-action passes downfield were wide open. Wysong had 5 receptions. Medford had 2 for 91 yards. Ryan Davis, 3 for 59. So spreading the ball around more, I think running the ball allowed for that. But on the other side of the ball, I haven't seen much of a change from the Montana State game until now. And looking ahead, like Ed was mentioning, the option scares me because Montana State didn't run the triple option, but they ran the read option time and time again to the tune of maybe over 300 yards. So looking forward, hopefully this defense is getting healthier. Ed was there listening to Coach talk, and it sounds like they're getting some guys back this week, which is promising. But another thing that's not changing is the number of these penalties. And to me as a coach, when you're looking at it, it's becoming alarming at this point because it's not just a lot of penalties, it's the type. There was 2 to 3 more personal fouls in the past 2 games, if I'm not forgetting. And, I think that is something that can be, they're saying is when you're overdoing it as a player, you're extending too much. But I think those things need to be cleaned up. Another thing on special teams, the punt return game right now is horrible. I believe Jacobs was back there fielding a fair catch when it was a line drive punt at him. He should have just taken off. He had open field. There has to be some type of rules in their head of when to catch the ball, where your heels are, and things like that. I'm sure there is, but it's not being implemented for some reason, and those things just need to be cleaned up going forward. And I didn't really see that much improvement. I would have to agree with you, Ryan. Overall, it's the same team. I think the offense is good, but we don't know how the defense is going to play other than being gashed week to week.
I'm going to go to some of the comments on the football team, on the football game. Whoops. If the game went one more quarter, Aggies would have won. So John Romero's got his crystal ball out. I don't know. They clearly couldn't stop UNM either. Some of our young players had stage fright for the first half. It might have been 70-60 if it was another quarter, or 80-70 because there was zero defense by either team. So there you go. I'm going to go to Roger Holy at Air Force. Is not the same team this year. It's a bunch of starters from the starting offensive line. Lost a bunch of starters from the starting offensive line. Don't think triple option will be as big an issue this year. That is why they are ranked low. I don't think it matters who's lining up against this Slobo defense. That's my point. Because if they couldn't stop the Aggies, who essentially are probably going to fire their offensive coordinator the day of the game, and then hung 40 when they could barely beat Southeastern Missouri. Again, I'm glad they won. I'm glad they won because it's been like the same song and dance. I think that conference play might be a little bit better. Were any of you at the game? I'm wondering if the students were as really bad as I heard from the callers on the radio, and what NMSU plans to do about this stuff. I did see the video and I forgot to bring it up. It looked like they were chucking beer cans and beer bottles at each other. We didn't go to the game. I wanted to, but we're doing a lot of traveling. I'm going to Vegas twice in the next month, and then New York, New Jersey, for UCLA, St. John's, and then Mountain West Conference basketball media days. And it's not a knock. We're approaching a month away from the first UNM basketball, or well, not exhibition game, but first meaningful game. If they were 2-1 or 2-2, might have been a different story. I think going probably would have been best suited us. I mean, and Rick, you said you printed out in the notes, and I appreciate that. Lobo's chance to become bowl eligible is 9.5%. I'd say that's probably better. Again, Wyoming Air Force, I don't know. God, my phone is blowing up. I guess I don't know what I do part-time. I forgot what I was going to say. So you know what, Ed, I'm going to go to you. What did Bronco say in his weekly press conference on Monday?
Well, you know what? He said he was glad that the team won. He mentioned the lack of depth that they have, the missed assignments. But they asked him about somebody redshirting. He didn't want to say who that was. He mentioned that, and he mentioned I think,
which Sean I find very weird, by the way.
Yeah, he didn't want to mention that. And a funny comment he made was, Deshaun is like, "Hey, you're the investigative reporter," but he laughed about it. He wasn't mean about it. He kind of, I kind of chuckled myself about that. But he said, and Sean Ryder asked him again about the bye week. Did it come at a good time? And Coach Mendenhall said normally he would say no, but in this case here, he thought it was a good time. Their second bye, they've got another one. The 3 byes is very unusual in football, college football. So he thought, the bye came at a good time. I think he's just happy for the team. He says, "I'm happy that we got to taste victory." I don't think he was, again, happy with the defense, but he mentioned that the lack of depth. He didn't make excuses. He just said that's what it was. He expects 6 guys. He said maybe 6 or 7. He said back for Air Force, and he said we'll have to see about that. But he's not going to tell you who or what or where. It's not going to mention any injuries. somebody asked him about it, he never talks about that. So that's plays things very close to the vest. So that was about it. That was about the gist of it. Roger asked him, I think Roger Holian asked him about the running back that New Mexico State had. He's very complimentary of the running game the Aggies had that night. And, he's, again, very happy New Mexico won and it got to taste success, because sometimes when you're losing, first 4 games and you don't win, it sets into the team. So he's very happy that the team got to taste some success on Saturday.
I was going to say one more thing, and I forgot. I want to move quickly to where to go? Well, I don't know where. Oh, there we go. That's better. Okay. I'm going to backtrack. Fantastic job of live show. I just wanted to wrap around the Mountain West. Joe Rigo will talk about it later from Franchise Sports Media in Las Vegas. He covers UNLV. He's in with the program. They just didn't beat Fresno State. They bent them over. That defense is legit. I don't know if any of you other guys watched the game. Jacob Neff and I did on our picks. By the way, I only lost 1 pick, and it was by half a point. So those listening, and I think Neff and I went like a combined 7-2. They beat Fresno 59-14. Haj Malik Williams replaced Matt Sluka. And they did not miss a beat. He might even be better than Matthew Sluka. I don't know. They do get Boise State on a Friday night this month in 4 weeks, October 25th. I believe it's a Fox Sports game. And I saw my man. I got to cut to him. When's the last time Lobo could generate a pass rush without a sellout blitz? I think our defensive secondary looks bad, mainly because opposing QBs have to stress free game.
Miguel Sanchez.
My man, Miguel Sanchez. We'll ask Ben Wysong that. That's an X's and O's question. And then Ashton Genty. I'm a 50-50 on Barstool guy. I think Brandon Walker is funny as all hell. He's a Mississippi State guy. He's an SEC guy. And I agree with him wholeheartedly here. Heisman top 5. Ashton Genty, Travis Hunter, Jalen Miller. Jalen Milroe, that game was insane. Cam Ward, only 4 this week. Nico up next. Ewers a spot on hold. Beck still in the mix after second half. Ashton Genty has over 800 yards, and I think it's 14 TDs in 4 games. He's got 13. But I don't know. He has looked incredibly, incredibly impressive. He's probably a first-round draft pick in the league of dying running backs with the NFL, but he should be in New York if he continues this. Let me pronounce my words properly. If he continues this, he should be in New York, in Columbia Square, in Columbia Circle for the Heisman come December. Moving along and not talking about Mountain West Conference football. Where did it go? I lost it. Hello, Pit Press guys. Can you gents allow my worst fears that the first victim of all of this conference realignment Rose will be current recruiting for men's hoops? Please say I'm wrong about this. I kind of agree. I'm going to let Eric get to that. I want everybody's thoughts. I think UTEP, they joined the Mountain West Conference yesterday. It was announced Gonzaga's in the Pac-12. I think this is a very good move for the Mountain West. I believe it's 8 football teams now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, it's 9. That's my journal. That's my UNM journalism and history math. And I'm going to say it again. I think they should go after NMSU. I think it would be very good for New Mexico. And you get that basketball game twice a year. And maybe, just maybe, you could play and create a tradition and play New Mexico State like other rivals do over Thanksgiving weekend. Just throwing that out there. Very quickly, Eric, you're big on it. I'll get your thoughts. Your thoughts on much redundant on UTEP joining the Mountain West.
I think regionally it makes sense. They also just invested like $5 million into renovating the football team's locker rooms, which if you haven't seen those, hop over to their Facebook page or Twitter. They're spectacular. They're like state of the art. And they have the Sun Bowl, man. El Paso's cool. If you've never been there, it's a really cool venue, facility, reigniting an old Mountain West or an old WAC rivalry. I think those old UNM and UTEP matchups were live and active. It was one of those old pit days where people look forward and circled those games on the calendar. Ed, you would probably know more about that than me. Those are more of my younger days, but I do remember those UTEP games being talked about a lot. And I think the overall in the conference is shaping up to be, I know that like Tarleton State is being talked about joining the conference. Sac State is also being considered as a Pac-12 addition. I know I forget that tweet that I had sent out to you guys. Yeah, they were like seeking out, or they were raising like $35 million in NIL funds to try to get some backing. And I think the Sacramento Kings even offered up their arena today, allowing them to play their home games there. So they're getting a lot of public support to try to change this. And UTEP kind of fits the region with the Mountain West, and it adds a Texas school. So I think Mountain West is trying to go after another Texas school. I forget the other schools that they're considering adding. But I know New Mexico State is not totally out of the conversation yet. And I've seen a lot of reactions from New Mexico State fans blaming UNM for keeping them out of the Mountain West, which is really foolish. Makes no sense.
You are incredibly stupid. And I'm probably one of the UNM fans that say, I'm not a UNM fan, I slipped up there. UNM alumni, and objectively, when I cover them at the paper, I'm going to say it again, I'm going to repeat myself. It would be good if New Mexico State was in the conference, because then you get the 2 basketball games, home and home. And like I just said, maybe move the football game, and create some tradition which lacks in this state over the Thanksgiving weekend. And I apologize, Roger and Jimmy H. I didn't see the UTEP logo on the bottom. Maybe I should go get my eyes checked. Yeah, that's 8. Invite NMSU if they sack Mario. I mean, again, I've heard it's an interesting dynamic down there. Ed, Rick, do you have any thoughts on that as I interject and take over the show? I'm incredibly sorry.
Go ahead, Rick.
I have a lot of thoughts. Let me get up on my conference realignment soapbox. All I know about UTEP is they're one of the worst teams in Conference USA. We can say they're a school in Texas, but that region isn't really part of Texas. It's more part of New Mexico or both. I don't think we could say there's a stronghold in Texas. So we could say that Gloria Nevarez, well, I think she's done a fine job. She's come on our show and graced us, with her time, and I appreciate that. But I think she's striking out so far, clearly, in conference realignment. They're clearly not going to get Texas State. So what options are left? Tarleton State, they just got new facilities as well, but they're isolated and far from the rest of the conference. And they're an FCS level school. It'll cost them at least $5 million to jump up, and the rest of their facilities would have to be upgraded. Also, one thing people don't realize about FCS schools, they have to deal with Title IX and all these new requirements that they're going to have to face. But they do have a good fan base. It just depends if the cost is too high for Tarleton State. But I've also been seeing they're getting recruited by Conference USA. Moving down the list, Sacramento State, as Eric mentioned, they have all the money now with $35 million somehow all of a sudden overnight in NIL money, which is kind of fishy. They're getting a new football stadium, and they're going to get to play at the Golden One Center, one of the newest arenas in the NBA, state-of-the-art facility starting in 25-26. So if I was Mountain West, I'd be going hard after Sac State at this point. They have the money, they have the resources, and they're gearing up for it. New Mexico State, sorry, Tamari, it's never going to happen. They're in the same region as UTEP, the same market. They're never going to take 2 schools in the same market. And it does nothing for the media rights deal that the Mountain West is going to try to secure, even with missing team here. The one thing that the Mountain West is all hinging on right now moving forward the next few years is UNLV, who clearly dropped the ball in my eyes. They took this quick payday, and you can bring this up with Joe because I can't stay on until midnight tonight. But the $25 million payday that they took, you're telling me that UNLV NIL can't go out and fundraise that money in Las Vegas? They're playing at the Allegiant Center. They have a basketball team with one of the top point guards in the country. That's an easy sell if you're UNLV at this point in time. So to take that quick $25 million is a very bad decision to me by UNLV and their decision makers. Because they're not hard to sell and they could have made that money up easily. They're missing out on what now is going to be one of the best basketball conferences in the country in the Pac-12. And if UNLV does decide to leave in a few years, where does that leave the Mountain West? There's no central hub any longer for the Mountain West. And I think at that point it starts circling, and UNM is just along for the ride. They're not a decision maker at this point in my eyes. And they're just spinning around as this all unfolds.
Since I've been corrected a lot tonight because I've misspoke, 'tis the season leading up to the election, I guess. Everybody's misspeaking. Somebody said that Sam Houston State, which it's Sam Houston, I believe, is 1,300 miles away from Las Cruces. 700
I wasn't talking about
yards.
Sam Houston State. I was talking about New Mexico State.
No, I know. But somebody said that their farthest or closest opponent was 1,300 miles, and I was like, I don't think Las Cruces is 1,300 miles away from Huntsville, Texas. So I'm sorry, but no, to piggyback off you, Rick, I completely, I can see your reasoning there. I get it. When we come back, he has already joined us, Ben Wysong. I want to take a quick commercial break so I can collect my thoughts and get my shit together. This is the Pit Press Live. We thank everybody for watching. By the way, we're on Facebook tonight. I don't think anybody's watching on there, but we have a lot of other people watching on the old artist formerly known as Twitter and the YouTube. We'll be right back.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
Welcome back to the Pit Press Live. Appreciate everybody watching. My name is Ryan Tamori. Trying to do a better job of hosting this now for those of you who love baseball like I do. It is my favorite player. I saw a lot of Padres games growing up. So, yeah, the Mets might stink, but at least the Padres have a bullpen. I do pull for them. I usually watch the Mets and them every day. 5-2 mid of the seventh. I'm going to throw it over to Rick Thompson because we've got some basketball recruiting news, which I don't normally pay attention to. So we will start with him. We're going to have there's going to be an announcement tomorrow, but I'll let Rick throw that. Rick, it's all the ball is in your court.
Sure. 4-star basketball recruit for UNM, Jasair Rencher, 6'5", small forward guard. out of here in the Bay Area near me at Riordan High School. Will be making his official decision tomorrow. It looks like he's narrowed it down to Washington, Oklahoma, LSU, Texas A&M, and the Lobos. So highly recruited. I think we haven't had a player of that kind of size and his skill since maybe, I'm not saying he's a Tony Snell, but I'm saying that type of build maybe since Snell. And I think that would really help us at the 2 and 3 spots, having some guys with length. So let's hope he puts on that Lobo cherry red hat tomorrow, guys.
Here's some highlights of him. Ed, when you see that, what do you think?
You know what? You can get to the hole, pull up and shoot. Looks very athletic. And, yeah, it looks like to be a player New Mexico would definitely benefit from getting. Like, oh, look at that shot right there. Like Rick said, let's hope it's the cherry and silver tomorrow when he makes that decision.
I guess what time was it?
He's rated number 91 nationally on 247. The announcement will happen at 6:30 p.m. Mountain tomorrow, and we can share the link again, but it's on our Twitter right now if you want to go check it out. I guess one final comment on recruiting. People were kind of asking about how we think conference realignment will affect current recruits. I don't know if it'll affect the current class, but I think what you have to think about now is more with the transfer portal is boomerang recruits. And those are the guys you recruited initially, went and played at another school, and then you have a shot at 2 or 3 years from now. Are those guys want to come back now that the Mountain West is going to be a weaker basketball conference? So I think there will be a change in the type of player potentially that we're able to get down the road.
I'm going to post this. Ice Baby, stop collaborating. Listen, Ice is back with a brand new invention. What's everyone's thoughts on Jalen Hodden committing to Colorado? I mean, you're in the Big Ten. You're in one of the best basketball conferences in the country. The head coach escapes me. Tad Boyle's done a good job there. Again, they were in the second round last year. They had the exciting win over Florida. They sent 2 guys to the NBA last year. So I'm just throwing that out there. But anyway, back to football. He played for Rocky Long, Lobo back linebacker in the mid-2000s. He always joins us weekly, and we're always happy to have him. His name is Mr. Ben Wysong. Ben, how you doing?
Doing good, fellas. Yeah, a lot of good talking tonight. Some good topics, man. And it's like, man, there's not enough time in the day to get through all of it, you know?
I don't do a very good job of scheduling our guests out because we get on a tangent because I'm not on live radio, so that's my fault. I wanted your thoughts. They beat New Mexico State. You played for the program. You have to be happy. Luke looked good again. I'll get to the defense because I don't know. They need to channel their inner 85 Bears.
Yeah.
2002 Buccaneers, 2000 Ravens, the Legion of Boom. I don't know. The Wreckham Tech. I just wanted your overall thoughts on the game. It was nice to see a win, though.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what more can you ask for really at this point? You know, I mean, a win is a win. You know, I mean, it was, you know, definitely beautiful from the offensive standpoint. And then, you know, it got ugly at times from the defensive / penalty standpoint. But yeah, it was awesome to see those guys get the win, especially down on their turf. And just to see these guys happy and excited after a win. I mean, it's been a hot minute since that's happened. So it was awesome. It was good. So, and these guys, they've definitely deserved it. They've been, you know, they've been busting their ass in the weight room and, you know, and in practice. So, you know, for them to see, you know, this result is, I think, exactly what they needed, especially going to the conference schedule now.
How do you fix this defense?
Man, I mean, you just got to get back to the basics. I mean, a couple of things that I saw during the game is that, you know, especially when they got on that jet sweep, is just, you know, pursuit angles. They got to learn, you know, they got to work on pursuing to that ball, you know, and then even just, you know, following through like on the blitzes. You know, a couple of linebackers when I was watching, and you know, they would hit the hole, they get there, but then they would, the linemen are flowing you to the play. You know, just you gotta, you know, trust your instincts and go with it. But I think like everything, you know, everything that you guys have said earlier, especially when it came to the depth, you know, I think having these guys, you know, these 6 players come back next week is going to be huge. I think the lack of depth really showed in this game. Yeah, this was the play I was talking about from the pursuit angle standpoint. And that was something that Coach Long, I mean, we worked at, we called it Lobo drill. We worked it every single day. And, it's just basically, like I said, it just gets back to the basics. If you can do the simple things to, perfect those, then it's just going to set yourself up for better success when you get into the more, I guess, detailed or more difficult, schemes.
Do you think the basics are harder to teach these days on defense because you're not allowed to hit as much in practice, or coaches are afraid to do tackling drills maybe as much as they were when you played? Do you think that could be any part of why the fundamentals are not maybe as strong?
Yeah, I think you actually bring up a good point with that. I mean, just hearing from just talking to the guys now, and I feel like the practices are just so different compared to when, and not even just with Coach Long, but I think just in college football in general, where, we weren't as limited. I mean, I remember Tuesdays and Wednesdays, we were helmets and shoulder pads, sometimes full pads, and we were lighting each other up, because, depending on your mentality, it's like, hey, we want you to be able to feel, the same thing in practice, which you might feel in a game. Now, however, we weren't taking each other to the ground or anything like that, but all the way up until you thud somebody, I mean, it's live. You're basically getting the feel for what the game is going to be. So, and I think that's very critical, especially when you're going against teams like Air Force, with that triple option. I mean, yes, it's, a simple, I guess, formation or a simple concept, but there's so many schemes you can run or plays out of that formation. So, you could do so much with it. And I think it's just a matter of just the preparation aspect. So, yeah, I think you're right, Rick. I think it's a great point, as far as just the change of practice and just, they don't really contact as much. So, I mean, I know that they do during practice. I mean, I know they still will get after each other, maybe if they're going ones versus ones and twos versus twos scrimmage style. But, other than that, I mean, your guess is as good as mine as far as, exactly the details of it.
Ben, I wanted to ask you this. Coach Mendenhall always mentions about the physicality of a defense, and he's a defensive guy.
Yeah.
And the guys that we've had on in the past have mentioned that, that they'd run through the wall for him. Do you think it's a couple of recruiting classes away, to get that physicality that he needs to play the kind of defense that he wants? I would think next year's recruiting is going to be real key, to get the kind of guys he needs and wants.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the thing too. I mean, just from a recruiting standpoint, I mean, yes, you're trying to recruit the talent, but you're also trying to recruit the personality of that player too. I mean, there's more to it than just how they play on a football field. It's, it's a certain mentality. It's a lifestyle in a sense, and I think, with Coach Mendenhall, I think he's definitely well on his way of doing that with the players. I mean, just seeing some of the guys that have been announcing on Twitter, hey, I've been offered a scholarship, and just watching their film. I mean, there are some guys that on that film that look like they are physical and they have a nose for the ball. So, yeah, I think, it's definitely going to be recruiting, just getting, the old saying, getting the right guys on the right seat in the bus and just being able to just drive that bus to success. So, yeah, absolutely.
Was it good to see from an offensive standpoint? Because as we get to the fourth quarter where it didn't want to end, and I've watched the two most painful football games I have in the last week between this UNM and NMSU game and the Giants and the Cowboys. Was it good that they answered on offense, like all those times, like New Mexico State scored and then UNM went right back to the field? I know the answer, but the fact that they answered like that and they responded offensively, I did appreciate that.
Yes. Yeah, 100%. I mean, especially you don't have to go back very far to, and I hate to say it like this, that they just were not good on offense. It was, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. It wasn't that long ago. And hats off to Coach Beck, man. I mean, that guy, you want to talk about a guy who knows how to utilize and get the best out of his players, and it's been very refreshing too to see that, especially for the most part on offense, especially they're deep on every position, in my opinion. Maybe not so much at the line, but then again, I mean, who knows? I mean, maybe they just haven't had to really, recycle those guys through. But I mean, you're talking about at the running back spot, you got three guys that you could easily hand the ball off to, and they could, do the work. And that's not even including Andrew Henry, which, I feel bad about his situation. I mean, he's, a great kid and he's a great runner, but, and look at the receivers. I mean, Luke was third in receiving yards. So it's cool to see that. Like, you have other guys stepping up, making plays. Like, you got Caleb, Ryan Davis, Nick Trujillo, he's been, doing well. So it's refreshing to see. And, even guys behind the scenes, like, I mean, I can't wait to see Evan get on the field. I'm telling you right now, that kid, I mean, I know Luke is an athlete, but I'm telling you right now, Evan is right on his heels. So yeah, offensively, it's awesome. I love it because I think it gives the confidence too that, hey, we can pretty much hang with anybody that steps on the field with us.
And let's not forget the new wrinkle we saw this week, Solje Mavia Peters playing Wildcat back there, right? He ran the ball hard a few times and then caught a pass. I want to see him throw it too. I know that's coming. So that was a cool new wrinkle to the game. And I was happy to see him getting some touches. That was cool. I hope they utilize that and run some more cool stuff out of it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Yeah, it was awesome to see him. And, from a defensive coordinator standpoint, it just makes that more challenging because now you have another thing to game plan for. You have a guy, and it's like, unless you did your research and know that he played quarterback and running back at BYU, it's like, you don't know what you're going to expect out of him. So yeah, that's a great point. It was cool to see him out there. And, I think it's even refreshing too to see these guys getting more playing time and seeing them more to death because, say, for example, all it takes is one play. We've all heard it, where if someone goes down with an injury, hey, you better be ready to go. So I think it's just going to help develop these guys, not only just for this, the remainder of this season, but going into next year. So it gives these guys some confidence.
I wanted to make a point here is that, you mentioned the offense, and Rick brought up a good point that they've got new wrinkles. The offensive line hasn't allowed a sack. I think that's pretty, back in the day, we haven't had a quarterback really that, went back to passing, wasn't under pressure a lot. And this offensive line, and they're all new. The offensive line last year was pretty solid. They sprung Bill for 1,500 last year. So I think that's something to look forward to. The special teams, Aaron Rodriguez is one of the top punters in the conference.
Right.
It just seems that, okay, the offense is here. They've been able to move the ball on anybody, and they've been able to score points. And that defense just needs, once that defense can rise to the occasion, and it's a good thing they've got 2 weeks to prepare for Air Force. Roger Holian, who's been around football for a long time, says Air Force probably isn't the same Air Force team that it's been, but still, it's assignment football. And assignment football, as Coach Mendenhall said it, an assignment here has been missed here, an assignment's been missed there. So maybe with some more depth coming in next week, maybe they'll have a better defensive outing. And the Air Force is still, I get it, they're not as good, but that triple option, man, New Mexico's always had problems with that. Always. Doesn't matter who's been the coach, they've struggled with that. So maybe with some more depth and maybe the defense. Well, the offense is at a high level. Special teams, we mentioned Aaron Rodriguez, one of the best punters. So maybe with the defense can finally find their footing. Let's hope against Air Force.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's the thing too. Like, even think about it now is that with this defense, I think once they get like their, normal starters back, I think it'll allow these guys also to start, getting more time together on the field as a team. And I think that's kind of one thing that's maybe hindered these guys a little bit this year is that, when you got, one guy starting one game but then you have another guy starting the next game, I think that kind of will disrupt the flow a little bit, as far as just playing together as a cohesive unit. But yeah, I mean, it's, I think these guys, just need to relax and just play football. I think it's just a matter of like, hey, just have fun with it. I don't know if it's a situation where these guys are just so feeling like pressure that, hey, they have to be perfect every single play. Because, that can just mess up the mental aspect of the game itself. I mean, you basically have taken yourself out of the game before the game even started. When you're more worried about screwing up on a play rather than going to make the play, I mean, that's what happens. You're giving up points on the scoreboard. So I'm excited for this Air Force team. And it's funny that, with this game, because you're right. It's always tough to game plan. I remember, was it 2005 when it was like Hank and Dontrell's senior year. And it was the last game of the year. And I remember because they had the bowl reps for the poinsettia, or was it poinsettia? those guys were ready to go. All we had to do was win that game, and we were off to San Diego. And sure as hell, Air Force, man, they came out and they hit us right in the freaking mouth. And that's, and I think they were pretty decent that year, but I mean, nothing like, some of like their, 9-2, 10-1 teams that they've had in the past. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be a dogfight. Air Force, it doesn't matter. Yes, they might have lost people, but they're going to punch in the mouth. I mean, Coach Calhoun is still around, and that guy is as physical of a coach as it comes.
Two things before I jump off and run my own Wildcat offense here.
Yep.
Number one, let's shout out our punter, Mr. Rodriguez. Got his white coat, getting his nursing degree on Friday night, so he didn't ride up with the team. My understanding is he drove out the next morning, went out and won Special Teams Conference Player of the Week. So quite a 24 hours for that young man. Congrats to him on both of those. So that's pretty cool. And then my last note here is let's not forget that Lobo basketball lost at home to Air Force last year in a big upset. So let's not repeat history. Good night, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick.
Thanks, Rick.
I was trying to listen to as much as I could there, and everybody's still texting me because of the Mets. And then the Padres are now up 5-4. You mentioned the other. I always got to ask you about Luke because you're related. He still had 5. He led the team in receptions, 5 for 47. His long was 16. I know you talked to him. I'm sure he was probably happier that they beat New Mexico State and finally got a win. And then it was obviously NMSU, as I just mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know those guys were all excited. I mean, talking with Luke, I mean, I think it takes a little bit of pressure off of these guys to, trying to get that first win of the season. So hopefully these guys can relax a little bit and, rest up going into the bye week. But yeah, I know these guys, I mean, hey, they accomplished the mission on Saturday night. Whether it was good, ugly, however you want to look at it, I thought it was a good win. So especially, when you're beating your rival down in their home field, I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. So, but yeah, Luke, I mean, he was, very happy about it. I know he was wanting to really go off on these guys this game. So I don't know if he had quite the yards that he wanted to, but I think, for him though, I mean, a win is a win. That's priority number one more than anything else. So just to get these guys, on the right track going into conference play.
I'm sorry if I'm repeating the question. I know that, it's a bye week and that it's 3 bye weeks. And if I'm re-asking a question that Ed asked, how odd or significant is it in the heart of conference play? Do you think this helps them out? This helps Bronco Mendenhall and this squad out a lot?
As far as getting the win?
Just moving forward in the season and healing up.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with him. I don't think this bye week could have came at a better time, in my opinion. You guys came off a win. You've got 6 guys that you have the potential now to bring back for the next game against Air Force, technically the second conference game, but yeah, I'm a fan of it. I personally don't like bye weeks from a player standpoint. They were awful. It was 2-a-days all over again. And, but I think just, from the overall health and just, the overall sake of the team, I think it came at a great time.
I forgot that you said Rocky Long did the 2-a-days and it was rough. Okay.
Roger brought up a good point. Yes. I am hoping to God that Tavian comes back. I think he has been the missing link in this defense. He's a proven leader. You combo him back there with Christian Ellis and, with Noah. I think these guys are going to be, in some good shape. I think that defense will improve with Tavian. He brings a different element to that defense.
Was there anything that you saw this weekend around the country, whether it be, I'll start with the Mountain West. I don't know if you watched any of the games. UNLV smacked Fresno 59-14.
Yes.
If you saw any highlights, if you learned anything from that game, obviously they started Haj Malik Williams. He's a new quarterback. I don't know. They didn't miss a beat. Again, their defense is pretty good.
How was he a backup is my question.
Well, that's Joe Arrigo.
Wild to me.
Well, Joe Arrigo is going to join us
okay.
in about 25-30 minutes. as I always push our guests back, and I'm sorry. I don't know if this is on the record or off the record, if I'm going to get in trouble for it, but I know that and I guess it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter now because Matthew Sluka left. But my understanding was that they got both these guys from FCS schools, Campbell and Holy Cross, and Matthew Sluka put up big numbers at Holy Cross, and he could run.
Mm-hmm.
And that the job was Sluka's, and then Haj Malik Williams came in and kind of nudged him. I guess not nudged, but there was like a growing quarterback controversy within UNLV between Haj Malik Williams and Matthew Sluka. So I think that they probably feel they're fine. And it's crazy that back-to-back years they've done it with the backup quarterback with Jaden Maivia last year.
Right.
But if you saw any of the game, and here's some highlights, I had it on, and I wish I would have bet. I think I did bet the living hell out of UNLV because holy moly. I mean, they on all three fronts, and we need to have Ned James back on because he says offense puts butts in the seats, defense wins games, and special teams wins championships. They blocked the punt there. But your thoughts if you saw that game, and then anything maybe else from around the country, and I might ask you about Ashton Genty, running back at Boise State.
Yeah, no, I was actually able to watch both those games, and I mean, I'll start with the UNLV Fresno. I mean, I figured it was going to be like, a pretty decent game. I didn't know much about the backup, but man, for them to beat the brakes off Fresno the way they did is just mind blowing. And even just not, I mean, like you said, they did it with all three phases. And how about that defense? That Woodard linebacker, man, that guy's a freaking monster. That guy's going to be playing on Sundays. I mean, that guy was just all over the field. What's his name? Is it Jackson Woodard? Is that his name?
Yes.
Jackson Woodard. Oh yeah. Man crush on him.
Man, dude. Yeah. I was going to say he's a defensive coordinator's dream. So it was fun to watch. Yeah. Like I said, I actually had fun watching UNLV play. It was just awesome to see these guys distribute the ball, see the backup quarterback do his own thing and just make a name for himself. And then, I mean, the way they put it on to Fresno, I was just mind blown. And then, I mean, what can you say about, Boise and Ashton Genty? I mean, that guy is just phenomenal. That's another guy. I mean, heck, we're going to be fighting over on fantasy football, every fall. So, I mean, hats off to those programs. And, it begs the question then. It's like, who do you got? Do you got UNLV or do you got Boise to win the championship? Is probably what most of the fans are thinking. It's going to be interesting down the stretch here. So, because I think they play in like 3 weeks. I think they play against each other.
4 weeks. Friday night on Fox.
Yeah,
I got an oops from Ronnie Chavez. Mike Sadia, what happened? And I don't know what happened. I don't know if I misspoke or something. Jackson Woodard had 8 total tackles and 4 solo. He opened the year at Houston with 3 sacks and 11 tackles. He's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on Ashton Genty, because I think he is the Heisman. It's what we do on this show. Have you guys not to the usual suspects? That's what we do on this show. We push people back. I don't know why you're mad. You comment and talk shit to me. You must love it. He looks good, man. I think he is the Heisman front runner.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely makes a damn good case for it. Not to have the whole, power or, groupified bias, but I would definitely put him as number 1 on my list for sure. I know a lot of people are still high on Travis Hunter, but what he is doing against pretty decent competition it's pretty wild. So I hope he continues it. I'm glad that we don't play them this year because, I mean, that guy's just phenomenal. So he's a lot of fun to watch.
I guess we had a privacy violation showing the highlights there, courtesy of Fox Sports and ESPN. His numbers, Ashton Genty, 82 carries, 845 yards, 10.3 yards a carry. His longest 77, and that's 13. That's just rushing. And
he's averaging a first down every time he touches the ball.
Yes, he is.
That's wild.
I was trying to see if 6 receptions, 19 yards, 3.2. I guess we got a privacy policy thing for showing too many highlights there. So sorry about that. Was there anything else around the country that you saw, Ben, that I mean, Georgia, Alabama.
Yeah, that was a wild game. That one was a lot of fun to watch. I like Jalen Milroe, so I was pulling for Bama on that one. And I mean, yeah, that was a great game though. I mean, Georgia really, brought it back to those guys in that second half. So you got to love games like that. And I mean, what a crowd and what an environment. It's a little still weird to me that you got Nick Saban sitting up in the press box watching the game instead of being on the sidelines, but it kind of makes you wonder if he's got that itch again to come back. So we'll see.
I think he's I think he's over NIL, and I think that's why he stepped away.
I think so.
Tell you one thing though, what is he, 72? He's
Yeah.
72. It looks like $1 million, man. He
I
does.
know.
But you know what? Why I think Ryan said that, and he said it too, that a couple of defensive backs came in to his office. I need $1 million. I need this or whatever, and he just was turned off. But the dude is making $7 million a year himself. He's got really nothing to say, man. He doesn't. He doesn't have anything to say about what they make when he's making. He's making $7 million salary. What is he making endorsement wise? He has nothing to say. Period. Nothing.
I mean, you got him and Dion doing commercials together like crazy. I mean, I see, between him and Dion, they're in every commercial you see on Saturdays. So yeah, I can't imagine what the endorsements are like with him.
What a pair too, right?
I mean, you want to talk about polar opposites.
Oh man, Dion is something else, man. He's a show though, primetime, right? He's a show. He's a show. Yeah.
And it's funny too, because even watching those two and watching, Saban on game day, like between him and Pat McAfee, he's another one where he's just, that guy just flies off the handle with anything, and you got Nick sitting next to him, like, all right, like, how do I react to this? It's like, do I rip your ass or do I just go along with it?
McAfee's like that though, right?
He is. I enjoy McAfee.
I watched the show one day and I didn't know it, and I'm like, what the heck did that dude just say, man? And now I'm used to it. So yeah,
that's a punter for you.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to keep you on for a little bit long. Well, no, Nick Coppola is joining us. Okay. Ben, any final thoughts? From the rivalry, the game, or anything football wise?
No, I mean, other than I'm just glad those boys got the win, and it's always a good time when you go down there and beat them in their own, in their own stadium. But I mean, you got to give a credit to NMSU though too. I mean, they fought all the way to the very end as well, and so it was just a good, hard-fought game, between rivals, and that's what else can you ask for? But now it's over, and we got to set our sights now on Air Force, and let's take it 1 week and one game at a time. So, and I'm excited for next Saturday.
My mom is a big fan of the Navy. And you know what? I wanted to read this before we move on. I took a picture of this. Indiana is 5-0 for the first time since 1967. UNLV is 4-0 for the first time since 1978. Duke is 5-0 for the first time since 1994. Iowa State is 4-0 for the first time since 2000. Pittsburgh is 4-0 for the first time since 2000. Rutgers, where my parents grew up outside of, and they beat Washington on Friday night, 4-0 for the first time since 2012. Navy is 4-0 for the first time since 2017. So all very cool things.
Yeah.
And
Navy and Army, aren't they both like undefeated for the first time since like 45?
They are 8-0 for the first time since we won a.
Like I'm talking since like World War, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, since a World War.
That's crazy.
It's nuts. Yeah.
Ben, this. We appreciate your time. If you're available this Saturday, I don't know what we're doing for the Morning Howl. We'll probably come on and preview some of the games. Game day will be at Cal Berkeley for the first time with this fantastic traditional ACC matchup of Miami, the University of Miami, Florida versus Cal Berkeley. Ben, this. We appreciate you, man, and we appreciate your support of the show.
No, thank you, guys. I appreciate you guys having me on every week, and I always look forward to it. So, I can't wait for the next one. And go Lobos. And thank you guys, all the fans for all the comments. I try to read them as we go, and, we really appreciate it.
Here you go.
Oh, gosh. That sounds stressful.
Hey, that paycheck might be nice.
I know. That's a good point.
Hey, Ben, appreciate your time. And Ed's jumping off. Ed Nunez, the voice of the Western New Mexico Mustangs and a Lobo fan since 1970. Mr. Ed Nunez. Ed, thank you. Appreciate it. Going to take quick.
Thanks, man. Take care.
Going to take a quick commercial break, and then we'll be back with Nick Coppola of the Las Cruces Sun News, and I hope I said his name right. Talk to you later, Ben.
See ya. Have a good one.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
Welcome back to the Pit Press Live. My name is Ryan Tamori. Be joined in a second by Nick Coppola from the Las Cruces Sun News. Yeah, I guess we were running highlights. We got away. I'm not an idiot. We got away with doing that for quite a while, so we figured I'd continue to do it. So glad we're back on now. I think maybe Ben got cut off there at the end, so apologize. Hey, joining us now from the Las Cruces Sun News, a reporter that covers NMSU athletics and high school sports down south in southern New Mexico. His name's Nick Coppola. Nick, how you doing?
I'm doing great. It's been an interesting past several days, but I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
I'm glad you're all right. I don't know. I didn't do my due diligence by kind of getting a read on you before tonight because I've been busy with my day job. I will say I don't know what you're allowed to say and what you're not allowed to say. So why don't we just, and by the way, the Padres just beat the Braves 5-4. So man, at least we get a third game tomorrow. All right. Hey, the NMSU offense showed up. What were your thoughts on that?
It was definitely a big surprise considering the things that happened and transpired for them to have a new offensive coordinator in on less than 24 hours notice. And Andrew Mitchell, their offensive line coach and their run game coordinator, was the one that called plays for them. He did a great job. That was the best offensive game they played all season by far. 40 points, over 400 yards of offense. Both of those were season highs. It's too bad they couldn't make a stop, or else it probably would have paid off for them. But Santino Mariucci could have been better. He left a little bit to be desired, but I think he played a fine game. Probably the best, definitely the best game a New Mexico State quarterback has played all season, for sure. So I do think that's their guy going forward. Especially with Deuce Hogan out injured. Santino will probably start anyway over him since he was playing better than Deuce. Their running backs were making plays like normal. They had Lorenzo McMillan, who's like their 4th-string running back. He scored one of the first touchdowns of the game for New Mexico State. They want to get him more involved in the future. And of course, McGowan, Monty, and Mike Washington were all making plays as well. Because they had somewhat competent quarterback play, they were able to get receivers a little more involved this time around. They allowed a little bit less pressure. I thought the offensive line looked a little bit better. Just overall, the offense just played way better. It was definitely a big surprise.
No, yeah, I mean, from a Lobo fan perspective, I'm sure it wasn't the best thing to watch. We were just talking about it, angles, and I know X's and O's. I'm not an X's and O's guy, so never played the game, love the history of it, watch it. I mean, you had Lorenzo McMillan with the big play, Monte Watkins, 3 carries, 30 yards, pretty good. I mean, I guess you mentioned it with the quarterback play. Are they confident in Santino Mariucci, which is the best name ever? I've concluded with Santino Mariucci. Are Tony Sanchez and the offense, whatever is left of the offensive coordinator staff at the moment, are they confident in him?
They seem to be. I feel the only reason, or the reason that they gave that he wasn't starting week 1 is because he got there in the summer instead of the spring, and so he just had less time to get acclimated and learn the offense and things like that. So now it seems like he's got a good, comfortable grasp on it, and that they trust him with it. He definitely, I feel like, has earned his spot last Saturday against New Mexico, because I thought he played a good game. And yeah, they seem pretty confident in him going forward, especially since he played by far the best game that any quarterback has played for New Mexico State this season. They talked post game about him just becoming more comfortable with the offense, getting a better understanding of it, and hopefully he's got a bye week to understand it more and getting even more of a grasp of it before they play Jacksonville State next Wednesday in 7 days. And so yeah, I think they have a lot of confidence in him right now.
Tyler Martinez is an Albuquerque kid. He played at Volcano Vista. He had 11 tackles, 3 solo. I can't talk tonight. 3 solo. He had a great performance. Obviously, they gave up 50, but I don't know if you were able to talk to him or not. But can you talk about his play and if you got a sense of what this game means to him? Because I'm sure it's rather important that he's an Albuquerque kid and he's down in Cruces.
Yeah, I think it means a lot to those New Mexico kids. In the Monday game, we didn't get to talk to the New Mexico kid, or maybe we did. I don't know where Jerry Lydiat is from, but we got to talk to Josiah Cox, who was a transfer, and he just got told maybe word of mouth about what Jerry Lydiat's from Colorado. So we didn't get to talk to a New Mexico kid before the game, and I didn't request any for Wednesday or Thursday just because I was working on a lot of stuff. And so yeah, I mean, I'm sure it means a lot to Tyler and things like that. And he certainly had a good performance. Was one of the about one of the only defensive bright spots that they had for the Aggies and things like that. He didn't speak much post game or things like that. Mostly just how disappointing the defense was and things like that. And it was a little bit interesting because normally we get Tony Sanchez and then by himself, and then he leaves, and then the players come in. At this time, they all sat together like they would in a Monday press conference, which never mind. And so yeah, so maybe, but Tyler didn't say much out of the game, probably just because there wasn't really much more to talk about because the defense gave a 50.
Right. Given everything that's happened, how significant is this bye week? They're what, 1-4. I'll ask you about what you know about the offensive coordinator Tyler Wright. You broke that story on Friday night, early Saturday morning. I mean, I know they're taking Conference USA is taking a playbook out of the MACtion, which I love. Which is where, as I defend Jerry Kill and Diego Pavia last year for winning me some money, but excuse me, I have a little bit of a coughing attack for being sick. How significant is this bye week right now? Did you get a sense of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a chance for them to reevaluate things and recover. It's obviously been a very disappointing start for them. Their one win is definitely or it felt like an escape win at the time. Probably still feels like that now. Excuse me. And so yeah, I think it just gives them a chance to reevaluate some things. They finally got the offense going, but the defense, it took a really big decline. So they got to fix that. And I think it's just a chance for them to get better in the trenches and things like that. Their run defense has not been good this season. Overall this season, they've had a hard time protecting the quarterback, even though they did a little bit better against New Mexico, or in my mind, I think they did. And yeah, it gives them a chance to reevaluate, the what they want to do on offense, what they want to take out of the game against New Mexico. Whether how are they going to try to make Santino Mariucci more comfortable? How are they going to try to make Andrew Mitchell more comfortable? Now he's the one calling plays, and he's coached the best offensive game that they played all season, and what they want to do with that. So I feel like, yeah, it's definitely gonna be an interesting week for them because now they have a whole stretch of Conference USA play. You got a bye game against Texas A&M in there, but this is their time. If they want to make it back to a conference championship game, which I don't think they're going to do, but if they want to, this is their chance to do it and establish some momentum in conference play and things like that. And so, yeah, it's an important week for them to evaluate a lot of things. We were going to try to talk to them about it last Monday, but they actually canceled their press conference for Monday and rescheduled it for next Monday. So we didn't get to talk to them Monday. So next week or next Monday, we'll get a better sense of what they were doing, how they're preparing, and things like that. But they certainly got a lot to work on.
New Mexico State is technically dead last in Conference USA because they have one more loss than winless UTEP, who's sitting at 0-4. They've got a new head coach down there, and I can't think of his name. All right, I got to ask you about this. And again, you could say what you want and tell me what you know. You did publish the story Friday night, early Saturday morning. Offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach Tyler Wright is currently not with the team pending investigation into his more than 150 racist, sexist, and homophobic remarks made on his account on X or Twitter. You said the social media platform known as Twitter. I'm reading directly from your article, so I don't mess anything up. You and the Las Cruces Sun News reported the nature of those posts on Friday evening. And as NMSU does, as much as I back them winning me money last year, they have remained very mum on Tyler Wright. They canceled the press conference on Monday. I know you're my guest, Nick, here. I think New Mexico State, that athletic department, while I have my qualms with my best friend Frank Mercogliano and what he does in the athletic department, media relations there, I feel for you because I was a part of a cover-up there, and what's always worse than the crime of the cover-up, and what I like to call stupid rivalry between UNM and NMSU. NMSU just does a shitty job all around, not making this about my opinion or me, even though I was doing that there. What do you know about Tyler Wright, and what can you say and not say about, the story you wrote that broke late Friday night, early Saturday morning, and his posts on Twitter?
Apart from him not being with the team, I don't know anything at this point. I don't think I'll be told by anyone within New Mexico State at this point. Regarding my report, I only have one thing to say. That's that I unequivocally stand by it.
I applaud you for your work as a fellow journalist. I thought it was a job well done. You told me a few things off the record, and I'm sure that wasn't an easy story to write. I appreciate your time. I'm going to let you get off a little bit early this week because NMSU and UNM have some bye weeks. So Nick Coppola from the Las Cruces Sun News, we always appreciate your time. Thanks a lot, man. Have a good week. We'll bug you. Well, I don't know. Next Tuesday, I don't know. We'll have to figure this this new with my Conference USA taking over my Maction slot. Ronnie, I'm not asking him that because he's staying mum. He's sticking by his story. That's his answer. I don't know. We'll try to figure out something else how to get you on when New Mexico State's not playing. But Nick, I appreciate it. Nick Coppola of the Las Cruces Sun News. Thanks a lot, Nick.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course, I will be right back with a guest that everybody loves. After a quick commercial break, Joe Rigo from Franchise Sports Media in Las Vegas. A lot to talk to him about. So I'm sure everybody else is looking forward to it, as am I. This is Ryan Tamori. I'm Ryan Tamori. This is the Pit Press Live.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
Welcome back to the Pit Press Live. My name is Ryan Tamori. If I could talk tonight again, I want to go back to the real quick comments before I get to Joe. Ronnie Chavez, Nick, how does news like that come up about someone? How does old messy stuff pop up like this? How do you decide about pursuing the news? Well, to answer the second question, it's public on Twitter. First, maybe or maybe not, he was tipped off by an anonymous source, and then you look into it. And if the outlet feels it's newsworthy, which I thought that story was newsworthy, and you add all the shit that NMSU has had go on in the past, that's how I applaud the Las Cruces Sun News for reporting that. Ronnie Chavez, I pray Joe goes live from the Spirit Rhino. All right, joining me now, one of my favorite people to talk to, and apparently he's been a hit, and he's back for more from Franchise Sports Media. Did I get that right? Franchise Sports Media in Las Vegas. He's the owner and president. I don't know. He runs the whole thing. His name's Joe Arrigo. I hope I had that all right, Joe. How you doing, man?
I'm loving it right now, man. A busy week, busy couple weeks, kind of slowed down a little bit, and then the Raiders pick it right back up. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Vegas was a little bit of a hotbed of news. And then, hey, you get the NCAA tournament back there again this year, or was announced. And I know the Final Four is going to be there, but I think you got some dates, or maybe I misread that. But anyway, I don't know where to begin with you, man, but you said that you thought Fresno State was pretty good, and we are still watching this UNLV Revenge Tour, or the Rebel Revenge Tour, the RTR. That was a massive beatdown on all phases of the game. 59-14, Haj Malik. I don't even know where to start. Your thoughts on that game, because they beat the shit out of them.
I mean, I think, for Fresno State, unfortunately, they ran into a buzzsaw. With everything that happened with Sluka leading up into that, that galvanized them even more. And they felt like no one's going to stand in their way. They felt like the offense was going to be ran to its full capabilities, and we were going to see a different type of UNLV, the one that we probably should have seen it from the beginning of the year on. And they came out just on fire. I got texts from players driving. I was at the stadium. They were driving to the stadium. They were saying, Joe, we're about to blow them out. A Fresno State coach told me the night before the game, because we were at a high school game together, he said that, I hope, like, this team was already close. I hope they kind of, I don't want to say divided them, but I hope they have a little fault, like get back, like, oh man, like I'm not feeling I don't know, they're not having a good week or whatever. But that wasn't the case. They had their best practices last week on Tuesday and Wednesday. So going into the game, they felt very confident. Fresno State being a perennial power in the Mountain West, team that only had one loss, and the loss to Michigan didn't look nearly as bad as that happened out here in Las Vegas. So this UNLV team is for real. They got a chance to do something special.
I will start with, I don't know what I can ask you about, what I can and can't ask you about Matthew Sluka.
Anything. I'll answer whatever.
Well, I appreciate it. Oh, by the way, I left this in my, I carpool to work.
Oh, you brought one in.
I left it in my buddy's car, and I have it back, and I love it. Anyway, that's what I get for paying $1 billion to go to Las Vegas and talk to people. I don't want to start with Matthew Sluka because we will get into that. And if you have more time tonight, I have more time because shit changed. Haj Malik Williams comes in. I don't want to say they didn't miss a beat, but
they played better.
They played better. And you and I had the conversation, and I don't want to again say what I don't know what I can and can't say off the record, but it felt like, I think what you had told me at Mountain West Conference Media Days was that he came in, Sluka was the starter, and Haj Malik Williams came in, and then there was a quarterback battle for starter.
There was a quarterback battle between the two. Leaving camp, the players felt Haj Malik should have been the starter. They felt he should have been the guy leading the way. He fit the offense better. He was there since January, went through spring ball with them, developed relationships, and in a short time has a big voice in their locker room. But Sluka came in with, he's the guy that they targeted, eventually targeted to be their starter, and went and got him from Holy Cross. But I had someone say to me middle of Thursday, go look at the film and look at these specific plays. Put the plays on, and there's guys running wide open, and he's taking off running. I mean, guys not near him. It almost became like a me type situation. I'm gonna call my number. So this week, with Haj Malik coming in, they were able to run the whole offense. There was more orbit motions, a lot of benders to Ricky White. I mean, Ricky had 10 catches for like 180-something yards and 3 touchdowns in the first 3 games. Last game, he had 10 for like 122 and 3 total touchdowns, 2 in the air and 1 on a block punt.
Because we met him and he corrected me on his stats, 10 catches, 127 yards, 2 touchdowns. Because I don't know, I think, again, I'm high on this team, and you were one of the ones that sold me on it, but I formulated my own opinion, which is sometimes good and sometimes stupid. I didn't mean to interrupt you there. Yeah, he had the block punt, but continue with that result. See those numbers.
All I was going to say was, when your All-American wide receiver is on special teams and he already has a block punt, and now he has a touchdown off of a block punt, and he probably could have blocked it too. That just shows you the buy-in of this team and why it's so special.
Jalen Catalone, 10 total tackles, 6 solo. Jackson Woodard, 8. 4. You said this defense is fast. They are smart. They are veteran. I mean, you saw it against a somewhat pretty good comparable Fresno State offense. This is probably their best performance of the year. Can they do better? And then, I'll ask you about Syracuse. Then we'll get more into Matthew Sluka. Then you get Syracuse on FS1 on Friday night, which I'm looking forward to. I cannot wait. Kyle McCord. But talk about this defense, man, because they are, I don't know, to shut down Fresno like that. I don't know. I'm blown away.
I think anytime you look at the defense in general, you want them to dominate up front, and that's what UNLV's done. They put a ton of time and effort into building their defensive line. And this last game, I mean, there were plays where they're getting penetration, and one is a redshirt freshman, Lucas Conti, got penetration, which caused a holding penalty, which nullified a huge game. They came back. I think they had to pick the next play. So, I mean, things like that add up. This defense, Jackson Woodard is a great communicator besides a great player. He literally is telling guys where to go. Doug Brumfield said it looked like out there, he looked like Luke Kuechly. And he did. That. I mean, the second drive that Fresno State had, I think Jackson had 3 tackle for losses on consecutive plays. And those were plays inside the 5-yard line. So, I mean, Jackson's just different. He's built different, and he leads the way. And Catalan on the back end, man, like, you can't say enough about bringing him in, tied for the nation's leading interceptions with 4. Jonathan Baldwin, his running mate next to him, he has 3 interceptions on the year. So between the safeties, you have 7 interceptions. Opportunistic defense, hard-hitting defense. Their D coordinator likes to play suffocating defense. And he's another one, Mike Shearick, for being 33, 34 years old. The stuff that he's putting on film as a coach, he's going to be a special coach someday as well. So this defense is probably the best in the Mountain West. And I'm looking forward, I mean, Syracuse this week, but in 2 weeks, we get Genty here in Vegas, baby. And I know that's been circled on their calendar. I would love – I can't wait to see what this defense as they're playing, trying to stop Genty. That's going to be special.
No, I'm looking forward to that game. Doug Brumfield, that's quite a comment on calling him Luke Kuechly. I mean, he's got. Uh-oh. Can you still hear me, Joe?
Well, yeah, you broke up for a minute. It said you talked about Doug saying
My bad.
Luke Kuechly.
My bad. Doug called him Luke Kuechly. That's quite the compliment. I mean, at this point, the way he's played, is he probably a draft pick?
Jackson, oh yeah, we did someone had said something, and they're like, oh, this may be the year he gets a player drafted. No, you'll have Ricky getting drafted, and you'll have probably Jackson Woodard getting drafted, and you'll probably have Jalen St. John, Jonathan Baldwin. I mean, there's probably about 5 or 6 guys that could get drafted off this team. So it's a really good team. And the thing is they've taken on their coach's personality. They don't really try to make they don't make any bones about what their goal was this year, was to go play for a national championship. So, like, that's literally what they were talking about at Media Day. Winning the Mountain West, getting to the playoffs, playing for a national championship. And anything less than would be, I think, disappointing, and this team is bought in like that.
All right, I'm going to ask you about Matthew Sluka. I crawled in bed, I think, after we did the show, last Tuesday or Wednesday, and I was going to text you, and I thought, man, your phone's probably blowing up, and I'm not going to be one to bug you, and I didn't. I figured I'd hear it from the horse's mouth when we have you on the show. I'm not shocked it happened sooner with anybody in the country. I didn't expect that. I don't know. I just want your overall thoughts, and I saw you on Twitter, but can you kind of give the rundown of the story and your thoughts? Because I've been looking forward to this since I asked you to come on.
Yeah, and I'll clarify some things too. So Tuesday, I knew before I did your show that there was a situation. I got it earlier in the day. I was at lunch in a meeting, and phone blew up. Got told what happened, and then I got story from multiple people. None of them knew they were talking to me. It all was the same story. It didn't sound choreographed or anything like that. Did the franchise podcast, did your show, and then turned around and was doing the UNLV podcast that I do. I had to tell my co-host, don't mention it because we're not going to talk about it. And then he put out the graphic. And from that point on, it was the most fun 72 to 96 hours of my life. Oh, it was just amazing. The amount of information that gets told to you, and then I'll say it like this. With this story, and I kind of just want to just shorten it because it's so convoluted. Go look at when he put on his Twitter account, and go look at when I met him on the field after the spring game. He introduced the same guy as his NIL agent. And on his Twitter account on January 22nd of this year, he had said he signed with this agency to represent his NIL. The agent is not licensed in the state of Nevada. So he continuously says, we negotiated $100,000. Okay. And then it was, I went to him and we tried to tell him we can do it for 80,000 and then 50 and whatever so you're negotiating. The collective themselves gave him the paperwork to become a licensed agent in the state of Nevada. So the dude didn't even fill out the paperwork to get it done. So talking to some agents that do NIL, some of them are NFL agents as well. They both had told me that they think that this guy was telling the parents and the kid one thing, negotiating with another to an extent, but not telling them the whole story as far as what actually happened and what went down. As a parent, Ryan, you're a parent. I don't think you would allow your kid to fly across the country for a promise of $100,000 without something right.
That's a valid point. And you can knock me for my opinion because I'm John carrying it. I'm on both sides of the fence. I can understand if you're offered some. I just was amazed, like what I read. Nothing on an actual piece of paper. I understand why he could be upset, and then the guys that I do the show with, and I wish Rick was on with me because I think you'd love my buddy Rick who joins us, and he's played football, but and he's got a question for you, and I'll wrap that up with that question. But I felt like Matthew Sluka could have been a part of something very special for a football program that's not been good, and now all of a sudden they look like world beaters. So I can hope you understand why I'm on both sides of the fence. Because of the older I've gotten, and now I'm making really decent money, and I used to not make any money at all. It sucked. I can understand the importance of it, and I'm a father, so I'm on both sides of the fence with that. I understand why he did it, but at the same time, there's still part of me that I'm like my younger self, and I'm not pushing 40, and I would have probably at that age, and he's got a college degree, right, from Holy Cross. He was a graduate transfer. If I'm mistaken, correct me. But at that age, and maybe you end up coaching and you're going to make your money, to be a quarterback for that team, be a part of that team and something special. And who's to say maybe they don't beat? I mean, I'm looking at Haj Malik Williams numbers and they're fantastic. But I don't know. I just feel maybe I would have taken a step back and be like, I might not be able to be a part of a team like this again. And if I've said anything wrong there or misconstrued, you can
Well,
correct
no,
me.
I mean, but when he met with Barry Odom and said that they reevaluated his NIL, what he's worth, and it's $300,000. Barry Odom gave him the chance to come back in the morning. You're more than welcome to come back, but we're not doing this. He packed his locker up that Monday night and left. Barry Odom gave him the option to, hey, take 24 hours to think about it. Like, this is how we do things here. There's no proof that any coach at any point said anything. You have the talk of an agent who blew this deal, quite frankly, and an agent who negotiated or attempted to negotiate a legally binding offer illegally by not being licensed in the state. Or you can believe a school who has all the paperwork, all the transactions, everything of that nature, including the person at the collective who was dealing with the school and literally said, here's the paperwork, Marcus Cromartie. Just fill this out, send it in, and however long it is, we can negotiate. And he never did. And that was in August. Okay, so you were here. So the question then for me is, if this isn't a low key, for lack of better terms, extortion attempt, why didn't you go to him during the bye week and say, hey, coach, I was promised this. Like, we got a game in 10 days, 9 days, whatever the case may be. Can we figure this out? Or get with the collective to figure it out? And then figure it out that way. But no, you wait till the Monday night before the biggest game of the year that you have to go and say you need more money than what you think you get. Look, if that's his stock being up, and look, I like Sluka, but I'm thinking business-wise now. That's as high as his stock is going to get. Haj Malik's performance on Saturday plummeted that stock because they were only scoring mid-20s against FBS schools with him in there. They scored 59 with Haj Malik in there. It's different.
And he was 13 of 16 for like 180 something yards and ran for over 100 and the total TDs there. I wanted to ask you about UNLV's response, which I think, given the history of Tark, and I've mentioned this, I'm a Tark guy. Larry Johnson is my favorite Nick, so maybe I'm a little biased towards UNLV, but this was part of UNLV's response. Quote, UNLV Athletics interpreted these demands as a violation of the NCAA pay for play rules, as well as Nevada state law. UNLV does not engage in such activity, nor does it respond to implied threats. UNLV has honored all previously agreed upon scholarships for Matthew Sluka. I would say this as somebody, again, you're close to the program from me as an outsider looking in. That is a firm balls to the walls statement put out there. How did you feel UNLV responded to that? Because I thought that was pretty damn strong.
The only thing I wish they would have done is respond back sooner. To be honest, the proper response.
Say that again.
The only thing I wish they would have done better was respond sooner. Like it took them a few hours after. I understand you want to get the wording right, but come on. And what they pretty much did is, okay, the morning came and the Sluka family was able to do numerous interviews and give interviews to national media, and the agent can go speak and do whatever he was, whatever shows he was going to do. Excuse me, but when UNLV put out that response right there that you just read that in part of, that was almost like them smacking them in the face saying, okay, shut up. We have the documentation. We have the paperwork. We know where you messed up. And now, Mr. Agent, you're trying to save face. So, shut up. I think that's what that was. Our firm just kind of like, fuck you, shut up. Because you're dealing with big boys now. You're not just and in all honesty, like it's a lot of money to me, but for some NIL type shit, that's not a lot of money. $100K, all this for $100,000 or $97,000.
Given what quarterbacks are making, I know that the power conference schools. I mean, I think Carson Beck's worth like $2 million, and some of those big dogs are making easily a lot more money. And this is the report I saw, and again, I'm a busy guy. I wish I did this full time, so bear with me. Was it true that Circa, the owner of Circa, the UNLV rejected the $100,000? What do you know about that?
I would have too, because now, okay, it comes out on Tuesday night that he did this. Everybody's in an uproar on Wednesday. UNLV looks like assholes. And then Derek, being who Derek is, and I love Derek, says, you know what? I'll pay the kid. I want them to do well. I'll pay the money. I want UNLV to do well. It helps my business. But at that point, he quit on the team. He quit on the team over money when he had the option to stay. And then to see for a head coach to see that locker room, the way they exploded when he told them, and the type of practice they had, that was their best practice of the year to date. And then the next stage was even better. I don't need this guy. Not one person's not above the team, especially a 40% passer versus, and then now you have like 86% or whatever it is. So just saying, like, I think they kind of let it just, it's whatever. They handled everything right.
I really liked Barry Odom. You have a relationship with him. You just mentioned, you kind of stole my thunder, that they had handled it right. I think Barry Odom looks very, very. He looks like a true head coach of this program. I thought he handled it very well. And I'm not trying to repeat myself there, the same question, but I think Barry Odom has shown that. And I know he's been a head coach at Missouri, but I don't know. I thought he did a pretty damn good job handling this. And the players seem to rally around it. I know you just kind of said that, but I think this speaks probably volumes to what kind of man and it's cliche, and what kind of head coach Barry Odom is. I don't know if you want to agree with that or comment on that.
Yeah, well, yeah. I seen Barry last Wednesday. I went to his radio show. I've never gone to his radio show before for a coach. I don't care. But I went, and he see me before he walked in and gave me a hug. And I said, hey, pretty interesting week. Kind of busy. He goes, you kidding me? It's an everyday thing in the SEC. So, I mean, like, was he sweating it? No. Because, you know what? I think after the way that he was approached about everything, he was over it and done with it. So, hey, I do want to say this though. Someone asked about did I think the $21 million deficit in the UNLV? Yeah, that right there. What I got told was very interesting on Friday. Every athletic department operates in a deficit because most of the schools are nonprofit, can't show profit. So you and most of you, and it's not 21 million. It's half of that, and most of that is tied up in funding and paying off the remaining $6 million for the Fertitta complex, and there's a couple other projects that are being built that they're working on that still is being paid on. So the deficit is actually, from what I was told, something like they call it a healthy deficit. So I did want to address that right there because he put it in there twice.
Yes. I just saw that it was there twice. I just right as you said that. This is my buddy Rick who joins us. And is a really smart guy. Again, he played football. He knows the X's and O's. But this question for you, just sticking with Barry Odom, and I know I'm probably going a little off topic, is there fear that, and I'll ask you about the conference realignment, which makes makes me and my head want to explode. Is there fear that, and this is Rick Thompson for everybody, is there fear that, and I didn't hit him with it tonight because he joined late. Richard. Is there a fear that Odom leaves for a bigger school, especially since they made the wrong decision of staying in the Mountain West? I want your reaction on both of those.
All right, so I'll start with the latter, and I'll lead to the former. Staying in the Mountain West, while the Pac has a bigger brand with their shield, it's not the Pac-10 or 12 anymore. USC and UCLA are gone. Washington is gone. Oregon is gone. Arizona schools are gone.
And Joe, I want to interrupt you there because I want to inject my opinion on this because you're a Southern California guy. And I'm sorry, I said the exact same thing, is that when I think of the Pac-10, the Pac-8, the Pac-12, I think of USC and Michigan in the Rose Bowl. I think of UCLA basketball. I think of Washington. I met Lincoln Kennedy. He won a national title at Washington. Those are the things I think of. I do not think of Boise State. I do not think of Utah State. I didn't mean to steal your thunder there. I just had to agree with you on that.
No, I'm just saying that it's not the same Pac-12 as what we grew up on. UNLV has never been wanted or valued or even been like the darling of the ball or a face of a conference. And now with this new Mountain West deal, they are. I mean, to get $24.8 million as a signing bonus, 24.5% of all the media deal, additional 1.5 to 1.8 on, money coming in with the conference, and you're guaranteed to be the highest paid team in the conference when it comes to the TV deal. But the cherry on top is, and I confirmed this with the athletic department, if UNLV were to go to the Big 12 at any point, there is no exiting fee. They leave for free. That is invaluable to go into the Pac-12, who, even with that, you still don't know their media deal. And is it really going to be better than a media deal with the Mountain West? I think, depending on markets, Fresno is like market 186, something like that. Okay, San Diego, big market. Both Washington markets, like, the markets are small. Who's going to really be like, oh, my God, I want to go to Oregon State this weekend for the Beaver Cougar game? Like, or it can be, I can go to Vegas for UNLV and fuck, we're going to Vegas. Who cares? Like, I mean, that plays a role too. But does that mean whether it comes for Barry? No, because of that excess money that they get for staying in the Mountain West, the number one priority is to get Barry Odom locked up. And Barry's looking forward to that. Stronger than the Mountain West by far. Well, I mean, okay, one of the stronger teams is Fresno State, right? Well, they just got 59 ran on them. Okay, so next week, after this week, we go to Utah State. Let's see if we score over 59, because I think they can. Okay, Boise is 2 weeks out. Oregon State is right after that, then Boise. So they got take away Syracuse. Their next 3 games are all Pac schools. We'll see what happens. At the end of the day, this was a popularity contest with the people in the Pac-12. The 2 schools in the Pac-12, and them feeling as if they can come into a conference and just take everybody, and they've done it to 2 conferences now. And isn't that the same thing that happened to them and why they got left at the door? So people don't want to rock with you guys. Why is that? Now, the schools that jumped to the Pac, I think they were sold a bill of hay. I think they were told we are going to get Memphis, we are going to get Tulane, and we are going to get USF. And then we'll either be UTSA, but we can always get UNLV. If not, then we can go to Utah State. I think that's all. That was kind of how it all went down, and they all jumped thinking that this TV deal is going to be, $15 to $20 million. It's about 9 to 13 million probably. Let's just be real. So this would be about the same as the Mountain West. And if the Mountain West brings in a couple other schools and kind of smart with their money, Mountain West could be good football. But UNLV doesn't plan on being in the Mountain West more than another 3 to 5 years. If they're winning, they're going to make the jump.
I'm sorry, the internet cut out. I heard you say the Mountain West. UNLV doesn't want to be a part of the Mountain West for much longer. That's all I heard.
Yeah, like 3 to 5 years. I mean, I think the plan is if they're winning, like they have it on the football field and hopefully in basketball, the next 3 to 5 years they're going to try to make the jumps. And I would guess the Big 12. Your Mark wants to be in Vegas. Everybody wants to come to Vegas. I mean, literally, everybody. Oh, we're going to Vegas this weekend from Oklahoma State. Let's go. Baylor. Let's go. Texas Tech. Whatever. Yeah, they're going to want to come. They're going to want to come. So I think that is the ultimate goal, is for them to get there in the next 3 to 5. Well, I'd say closer to 5, but in that time frame.
Vegas is a top 40 market. It's number 40. I think it was asked at Big 12 Media Days, like why, they were there set up at Allegiant Stadium. I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't want to go there. And I always tell you this, Vegas fascinates me. And I don't even play table games or I'm a sports gambler. I mean, I'm a sports gambler, but it's, I don't know, the whole city, the way the airport is right off the strip and you take off and the money and the food and I don't know. It's, it's a very unique place and I love it. I'm going to be there twice in the next month. And maybe if I can scrounge up enough money, I'll be talking to you about that Boise State UNLV game. What was my next question going to be? I guess I'll move on with that. And if I'm missing something, then I'm the idiot here. They, from a football standpoint, going back to it, what, I'll ask you this. So what do you, and I know what your answer is going to be. How do you feel about UTEP at least joining the current Mountain West?
I don't care. I mean, honestly, good. You got your 7th full-time ever. All right. Who's the 8th? Let's I like the fact that they swung and missed for Texas State. Look, UTEP, they needed to get out of Conference USA. They need to be more on the West Coast. Honestly, it's Western Texas, but still, you know what I'm saying? That there's a nice little quarter. Them in New Mexico, you guys, that should be a good little rivalry, I would think, if there isn't already one. But it was. That's what I
yeah. At one point it was, and I feel that they should play UTEP and NMSU, as much as they can. Just me being a local guy, but yeah, I'm talking to somebody in Vegas.
That happens though in 2026 now. So you get them in league, you get them in conference. Yeah. So, I do think that with that they're in, UTEP, they invested money into their program. First came out this year. I think they had over 40,000 people at their stadium. So, personally, I don't care who else comes in. I love the fact Northern Illinois and Toledo reached out to the Mountain West. It wasn't the other way around, and showed interest, and there's mutual interest. I love that they went after Texas State. That if that doesn't happen, do they pivot to New Mexico State or do they pivot to somebody else? That's the next question. Selfishly, I don't know if he would be there. I'll get to see Tony Sanchez, going to hang out. I'll get to see my guy for a little bit, there's that. But then at the same time, with everything going on there, before I came on, the offensive coordinator scandal or, the basketball scandal, from last year, do you want that in the conference? So then, where else do you go? Tarleton, Tarleton State, or I think that's how you say it. Out of Texas, it's just, I won't say just west, just east of Dallas. That's a powerhouse at the FCS level. They draw well. I think last week alone they drew 18,000 people at the football game. So, and they're investing into their athletic program. So if that's the way she wants to go and have a Texas market to go with the 2 schools in the Midwest, hey, I'm with it. So UTEP coming on board, that's just the first domino to fall.
Yeah, Tarleton State. I'm shocked that they have. Maybe I'm not shocked. They're in Stephenville, Texas, and it's not. It's west of Fort Worth. I mean, to me, they've come out of nowhere. I don't know much about them, so I'm not going to comment. I just feel like anything out of Texas would be good. And I think NMSU would be good, but that's me being in Albuquerque, New Mexico, 3 hours north of that school. Thoughts on Gonzaga to the Pac-12, and then I'll get back to UNLV. I just wanted your thoughts on that because
I love it from the basketball side. That's going to be a great basketball conference. I think it's got the potential to be, but other than the unfortunately too, other than when they get to the NCAA, their conference tournaments, no one's really watching like that anymore on weekends. Everybody's got their stuff to do. I know, here in Vegas, I'm not like I'm gonna sit home and watch Big East basketball on CBS like we used to growing up, or ACC Tuesdays. Oh, must watch TV. Like
Big Monday.
Like that. Yeah, Big Monday. Oh, that was the other one. Yeah. So it's not like people do that anymore. So I think now if you're a bigger basketball school, or it doesn't really matter because they're no fun like most football schools, unless you're at like the UConn or something like that. But Gonzaga, that's good for them. Now, is it a full? If it's a full share, great for them. If it's basketball only, but I know again they have reservations. Boise State's coach had to kind of talk him into it a little bit, according to a report I read earlier.
I didn't see that. I'll have to check that out. Switching gears back to football because this conversation was all over the place, and I'm sorry. Friday night on FS1, of all schools, Syracuse goes to Vegas, and they're 3-1, and they lost a pitiful game to a Stanford team that I don't think is that good. I know that quarterback's all right. A lot of people are high on him. Obviously, Kyle McCord, the Ohio State transfer. He's there. He's thrown for nearly 1,500 yards, 14 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. I'm not so sure he's faced a defense like UNLV. They beat Ohio. They beat Georgia Tech, who was ranked at the time. They lost to Stanford, and they pounded Holy Cross. What are you? I mean, I know what your expectations are, but what are you looking forward to Friday night between Syracuse and UNLV? I think this is a really good test for UNLV.
I think Fresno State is just as talented as Syracuse, and they got 59 put on. I don't mean to sound like every school is trash, but Syracuse is good. But I mean, you're giving up at least 22 points a game to really teams that aren't as good offensively as UNLV. UNLV is giving up 14. I think they're averaging like 14 because only giving up 14 points a game on an average. Sorry, I don't think Syracuse offense is going to move people because this UNLV defense is big. They're fast. I think UNLV is going to win up front, and they're going to try to find a way to stop Ricky. But I think this is a game Jacob DeJesus steps up and plays. That's a real big game. So I like UNLV big.
Is it a good spot for them again to be on FS1 on a Friday night? They're kind of a lone game, standalone game. I think if I look at the schedule correctly, I mean they're on FS1 on a Friday night. They're not mixed in to the jumble of what is college football on Saturday. So I'm sure you've got to appreciate that.
But for me, I don't mind that it's a Friday night this week because high school is Rosh Hashanah. So high school football out here moves to Saturday. So I can watch a UNLV game in peace and I don't have to do 50,000 things. I can focus on the game. So I don't mind that. I like the Friday night games in that regard. The one against Boise, not so much. I would have loved for that to be the national game on Fox on a Saturday night on the West Coast, because I think that'd be. But again, the only game at that time slot on a Friday night, I think that's really good for them. So, but yeah, these Friday night games kind of suck in that, from that side. But UNLV has I think 4 of them, 3 other next 4 this week, next week, Oregon on a Saturday, and then Boise again on a Friday.
I think I had one last question for you, and I forgot if I asked it. Do you think Ashton Jeanty is the real deal? I think he's a Heisman Trophy candidate.
Yeah, I mean, he's the best running back in college football right now. And I'm a huge Jaden Ott fan. I don't know if there's anybody that's more bigger Jaden Ott fan than me, whose last name isn't Ott. But Jeanty is the real deal. Now, to see people say he's the best running back, I've never seen ever in college football. Okay, first of all, you've never seen Bo Jackson play, you've never seen Marcus Allen play, never seen Barry Sanders play, Garrison Hurst, Herschel Walker. I mean, these guys were different. Jeanty's good, but he is their entire offense. Boy, I'm not impressed at all with Boise's passing numbers. I think Boise, if you can load up the box and stop Jeanty, you can go one-on-one with their receivers and cover 0 and kind of lock them in and go from there. And this quarterback is not mobile like Green was last year, which is what gave team fits. So I'm not a big believer in Boise. I'm a believer in Jeanty, but you stop him, I think Boise's offense is subpar at best.
I still think I've got that. I mean, I've got that game marked on my calendar. I can't wait for it. I mean, I've liked what I've seen out of Boise. I was really shocked with how they played against Washington State. Again, I don't know if Washington State's world beaters. What I know is that when they come down to Albuquerque with that defense, they will probably score 70. But he is Joe Arrigo from Franchise Sports Media in Las Vegas, Nevada. We got rave reviews about you on our last show, but of course I've gotten to meet you and know you somewhat. So with everything going on in Vegas, last question. All right, I lied. What do you know about Davante Adams?
I know that Davante Adams is one of the nicest people in the world. Davante's a good dude. I think that it's only one. It goes one or two ways. One sounds crazy, but if you think about it, it's not. And that is when he ends up actually signing an extension for a couple of years, because you look at his next 2 years, they're not guaranteed. And they're very cuttable numbers. I think it's like $72 million for the next 2 years. And they want to, obviously, if they want to keep him around, they'd have to adjust that. That's the least likely. The other one is a trade. And I think that with that, I think there was some beef and some miscommunication between Davante and Antonio. And there were some things that may have been said that it could be worked out. They communicated, but if they're not, I don't know if they're on speaking terms. It doesn't seem like it, but I think each side, there's fault with each side. I think he ends up getting traded, but I kind of hope he doesn't. I hope he stays, because he makes the beat a lot more fun. But I don't know anything about what's going on in terms of like the backstory with what happened or whatnot. I just know at camp it seemed a little bit weird that he wasn't there for as long as he wasn't there. And it just made me think, just what ifs, a lot of what ifs. And unfortunately, some of those things came to be. Right? Liking a picture on social media or whatever. That's where I say the Raiders have some blame. You can't do stuff like that. You're the head coach. No, that was uncalled for. And that's kind of start all the extra drama. Oh, people made business decisions. Yeah. You don't need to say that to the media. You can, unless he wants to use the media to get a message to his team, but I never took him as that type of guy. He's always been a very direct person, like Devontae, which is why I'm kind of surprised with the situation.
Well, if you can judge by what is behind me and the shirt that I'm wearing that I forgot I'm wearing, I'm a big Antonio Pierce fan. I'm happy he got the job. He was the anchor of that. I mean, he was the anchor of the Giants defense for a couple of years. And he was the signal caller in 07. So he's my guy. I'm happy that he's got that position. It's, I don't know if it's necessarily a good thing because I think Max Crosby came out and said, we want him as head coach. We love him. It's probably different in the professional world, but the fact that those guys vouch if it's because he was a cool guy, I don't know. They pulled off a great, I mean, the Baltimore win is great. I secretly, I have a soft spot in my heart with all this blue. I have a soft spot in my heart for the Jets. Probably if there was no such thing as New Jersey in my life, I might gravitate toward the Raiders. And I'm not just saying that because you're on or Vegas. But now, especially that I go to Vegas a lot and I love Antonio Pierce. So I'm kind of pulling for him. I was just curious about that. I think I don't know. I pray that Devontae Adams doesn't end up with the Jets or the Giants. I don't know how you would feel about the Jets.
I would look. I love Devontae. It was bittersweet for him to be traded away from my favorite team to the Raiders, and I got a chance to cover. But I know the relationship that he has with Aaron. And if I'm looking at it from the Raiders' perspective, give me Hassan Reddick and throw in a 4th-round pick. And you can have Devontae. And then now you add Reddick to that Raiders defense, and that defense could be pretty good. Because then you get Max Crosby back from the sprained ankle with that defensive line with Reddick. I mean, it'll be a nightmare for opposing offenses. And it'll be good for Devontae then. He goes and plays with Aaron for another year or two. I question, even when Devontae asked to be traded and he got traded here, there's an ascending quarterback that you could really help, and that they're not that far off. Like, you could have stayed and done something. We'll see. Like, I think unfortunately for me, I think a sneaky team to watch is Detroit. They got money, they got picks, and they can make some moves. So,
well, when your quarterback goes 18 of 18 on a primetime game, I mean, if I'm a wide receiver, that's very enticing. I have defended Jared Goff because, for the most part, he did not turn the ball over last year and going back into 2022. That was the biggest reasons I'm high on him. I don't think he's necessarily a world beater. I think he's a pretty just darn good quarterback. I think he's really good. Again, no X's and O's. What do I know? I got to tell my buddy Zach. I got to tell a couple people that because I know a couple people in Detroit in the Midwest that would love hearing that. You can find him with Franchise Sports Media. His name is Joe Arrigo. Joe, I appreciate your time. I know your time tonight. I told you one thing today, and yesterday was crazy, and I was like, I don't know how much I could have you on because I love listening to you. And then I thought, now we can do it, and my plans changed. So, I appreciate your time.
I have my young sponsors that are they can wait a little bit longer before they get their college tuition paid for.
Well, I think that was ours. The suspicion that you were going out tonight. So, hey, I will be watching UNLV and Syracuse as I've watched UNLV pretty intently all year. Joe, I appreciate your time, man. You know, I love your candidness. Rick loves you. Our listeners love you, and we've grown a lot more. So I appreciate your time, man. Go out, enjoy your Saturday or Friday night, whatever it is tonight.
Nah, today's just a Wednesday. But no, I appreciate you guys. Thank you. Hey, appreciate you guys, everybody out there. I'm glad you're supporting them because they do a good job. I have fun. And I've had to do a lot of these over the last week, and this is always one of the funnest ones. So thank you for
Well,
having me.
well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate you always getting back to me, man, and accommodating. It does mean the world to me, and I'm traveling to Vegas a lot more lately. So I will let you go. I will let you get to helping young children get to college. Excuse me, not young children. That was wrong. We're not
Diddy over here.
Yeah, I was just gonna say we're not at a Diddy party. I will help you. I'm running out of steam, so I don't even have a bad joke. Enjoy your night at the strip club.
Have a good one, guys.
Have a good one. All right. Oops, I actually cut him off. That was Joe Rigo. I'll be right back. My name is Ryan Tamori. This is the Pit Press Live.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
Welcome back to the Pit Press Live. I'm going to wrap things up. Might give you my opinion on some things. Appreciate Rick Thompson, the guys that joined me, the usual suspects on the show, Ed Nunez, Eric Malton, my business partner in this endeavor, as I always say, Dulce River Bakery and Coffee, Affordable Solar, Turquoise Desert Tap Room, Hydro Bar, just to name a few sponsors that really appreciate. And before I continue on with sponsors and find my train of thought, any questions? That's maybe I'll wrap up the show. I'm going to throw this out there. This was our question of the night, which is something we were doing. But we've had so many guests on. We've kind of changed how we've done things. We have a lot of people watching on Twitter. Twitter appreciate it. We went on Facebook for the first time tonight. I don't think many people are watching on that. And we do have occasionally people watching on YouTube, but a lot on Twitter tonight. How will relations between the Pac-12 and Mountain West Conference be moving forward? Just your opinions there as I give my thoughts on some things. And want to thank Affordable Service Heating, Plumbing, and Air Conditioning for supporting us. They will help with all your HVAC needs. In the Albuquerque and Rio Rancho area, Affordable Service has been in business in New Mexico since 1986 and is still locally owned. During that time, they've served more than 40,000 customers, providing complete residential and light commercial HVAC services, including heating, cooling, electrical, and plumbing. Affordable Service takes pride in its staff commitment to Albuquerque and the Rio Rancho communities. Thank you, Joe Rigo, there for coming on. He's always a pleasure to talk to. He's very informative. He's comical. He's charismatic. I love having him on. And he's in the epicenter of, I think, college football with what has happened with Matt Sluka and them being good and them being 4-0. And then you get another Friday night game against at least, Syracuse. I know they've got a pretty decent offense. Joe says that Rigo thinks that they're going to destroy them. Then UNLV gets Utah State, at Oregon State on the CW. Boise State, that game is on CBS Sports Network on Friday night, October 25th. Then they have a bye Hawaii, San Diego State, San Jose State, and then they obviously play their rival in UNR. And that's right. He mentioned something about Rosh Hashanah begins tonight and ends on Friday. I used to work at a synagogue. Again, appreciate everybody watching, commenting. I know I give a couple of you guys a hard time, but really do. That's what it's all about. I don't mean any ill will. I'm just probably more arrogant when I host this show. I really mean well and don't have any what's the word I'm looking for? I'm not a fighter. I'm not looking to bash anybody or ill will. It's sports. It is taken seriously, but I mean amongst us, it doesn't have to be taken seriously. As far as the question go, I'll go to Ronnie. I believe you certainly have a rival between conferences from a standpoint of being two top conferences west of the Mississippi, but I think it'll make conferences stronger from here on. The Big 12 is west of the Mississippi. Majority of it's in Texas and the Midwest. And then you add Utah and Arizona State and BYU. BYU looks good. Running out of energy here. Sorry, I'm losing my voice again. Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand that. I host the show and UNM's sort of in the mix of it. And that wasn't to correct you, Ronnie. I wasn't doing that on purpose. I was just letting you know. Wasn't a gotcha. I will say this, and I should probably be educated hosting this. And again, we don't do this full time. We try to do the best we can. We created this for Lobo fan and fans in the Albuquerque area. But the conference stuff has gone over my head, and it's like it's not even every day, it's every hour and every minute, and I don't care anymore. No, it's not really that much of a hot take. As I mentioned to Joe, and I interrupted him, when I think of the Pac-8, the Pac-10, at least what I grew up with, the Pac-10 and the Pac-12, I think of USC football. I think of UCLA football. If you remember the late 90s and early 2000s, UCLA had good football teams. Miami kept them out of the BCS title game, I think in 2000 or 99, when Miami turned the switch under Larry Coker. The entire NFL squad that they had. I lost my train of thought. I miss when I think of the Pac-12, Pac-10. Again, I think of USC football, UCLA basketball, UCLA football. I think of Washington, Arizona State. I mean, Arizona State represented the Pac-12. They were number 2 and lost to Ohio State in 96, 97 with Pat Tillman and it's the old Cardinals quarterback and Broncos quarterback. Oh my goodness. His name is escaping me, and I'm going to get shit on by a ton of people. Oh my goodness. I can see his face. Jake Plummer. Thank you. Thank you, Ronnie. I'm sorry. I could not think of his name. Yeah, Jake Plummer. They were number 2 in the country and lost to David Boston at Arizona State. At Ohio State. Yeah, those are the things I think of when I think the Pac-10, 12. That's what's appealing to me. I don't. Yeah, Jake the Snake Plummer. What beat the Cowboys in the wild card 98 or something? 99. Yeah, the conference realignment stuff just drives me bonkers. Eric's into the NIL. He's into the business side of things. Again, as I always mention, I love the history of stuff. So my piece of paper from UNM says, and I still love what college football is, but I'm going to say it again. I'll repeat myself for the umpteenth million time. Yeah, I mean, ESPN College Game Day is at Cal Berkeley for an ACC matchup between Miami and Cal. I mean, it's so weird to me to still see the ACC on the Stanford field and the Cal Berkeley field. It's just very, very odd to me. I don't know. I can see Gonzaga in the Pac-12. It makes perfect sense. I'm shocked that they didn't do that. I wonder what's going to become of the West Coast Conference, the Big West. I love those leagues. Jacob Neff, who's our capper, Thursday nights during college basketball season. I mean, during January and February and early March. I mean, that is Big Sky, West Coast Conference, Big West. We watch that, and we watch that religiously. Speaking of, I hadn't hit on basketball, and I would love my basketball junkies to be on with Eric, Rick, and Ed. Just some basketball notes. UNLV will continue to host the Mountain West men's and women's basketball tournament at the Thomas and Mack Arena through 2032. Great Osabor, as you know, Mountain West Conference Player of the Year last year, I think voted by the coaches, was named to the Big Ten preseason all-conference team. Danny Sprinkles up at UW. And we will be there. I didn't put anything on our little bug there. Mountain West Conference Media Days will be 16th and 17th in Las Vegas at Resorts World. Jeff Goodman and the Field of 68 crew will be there live. As will we. We were trying to figure out what we're going to do. Probably go live. Rick, thanks for those notes. Looking forward to that. I know we had a conversation with Nico Medved last year, and two names that I know for those Lobo fans that will make your blood boil, Steve Alford and Leon Rice. I've had the pleasure of covering Steve Alford for years. I love talking to him every chance I get, especially with what he has accomplished. I don't know if I'll necessarily ask him about the Dayton game in the first round, but looking forward to Leon Rice. Hopefully Tyson Degenhardt. I'm thinking, guys, Brian Dutcher, maybe we can talk to him this year. Obviously, last year, a big deal for them coming off being the national finalist. Lenardi has one Mountain West team in, and it's Boise State. I don't know how many teams they get in. I think it's probably one or two, maybe two at the max. Have to see how the season play out. I would imagine that UNM would have to win the conference. But again, you get wins UCLA, St. John's, you're going to be looked at. You beat VCU. This is a very, very tough schedule. Well, we're 33 days away from the election, so that puts that at November 5th. That means we're 36 days away from the the season opener for UNM basketball, which is Friday, November 8th, when they play UCLA in Henderson, Nevada. I am losing steam, and I'm probably running out, and I'm not trying to bore people. We will be back Saturday morning with the Morning Howl. Obviously, UNM football does not play on Saturday. It's the second of their 3 bye weeks, but we'll come on with picks and try to break it down a little, college football down. Maybe try to nab another guest around the conference. Once again, appreciate everybody's watching on Twitter, YouTube, mostly, X. I'm not really much of a Facebook guy anymore, so whatever. We're live on there tonight. We've gone live on Instagram, but appreciate everybody's support for it. We didn't do a show last night. We just felt with the bye week and gearing up towards basketball season. Probably try to throw some Lady Lobo hoops in there and talk a little bit about that. Vinay Cumber comes back, so that's a big deal. A lot of turnover with that team, though. I don't know how they're going to be. We'll talk to you live Saturday morning on the Morning Howl. Again, the UNM football pregame show. Again, they don't play. For Rick Thompson, Eric Moulton, Ed Nunez, Nick Nunez, Jacob Neff, I want to thank Nick Coppola, Ben Wysong, and Joe Arrigo for joining us. My name's Ryan Tamori. This has been the Pit Press Live. We will talk to you Saturday morning. Everybody be safe on your Thursday and Friday night. Have a good rest of your week.